Oh, do you also have to click live on YouTube? Oh, nope, it says
there.
live right now.
We're good.
All right, everybody be cool. We're about to
Okay.
start.
All right.
Welcome one, welcome all to episode 224 of the Xbox Expansion Pass, recorded on Saturday, April 20th, 2024. I'm your host, Luke Lohr, the InsipidGhost, joined by a slew of co-hosts from other gaming podcasts in the gaming ether. Today, we'll be talking about the continued milestones of Sea of Thieves and the Fallout franchise, as well as more games exiting console exclusivity. Today, I am joined by one Dan Daddy D Wally from the Nerd Chat. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing great, Luke. I'm so excited to be with some of my best friends on the internet here, all gathered to talk all things gaming, food, and the good old days. Can't wait. So thankful to be here. Appreciate it, Luke.
Provided you don't bring that trash food from Little Caesars.
Little Caesars is good quality $5 pizza, you guys, with
Little
bacon.
Good
Trash
quality
food,
$5 pizza is one hell of a sentence.
It's trash food for trash people. There we go.
Oh, here we go. All right.
Alienating fans out the gate. I like it. Also from the Nerd Chat, we have one Jose, the Chipotle Bear, my fellow comrade in education. How are you, sir?
I am great, man. Happy to be here. I do appreciate that Luke did not give us editing access to the document. I'm assuming that's mostly because of Joe, but still thrilled, buddy. Happy Saturday.
You are absolutely correct. That is why I did not give you editing access. I knew that if I did that one thing, this whole thing would go to hell in a handbasket. We should also welcome, I suppose, Joseph Moran from the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast. Hello, sir.
Hey, sir. I just want to say how brave you are, because you're sick with the rads.
That's true.
And you still I think that's very, it's very brave. So.
Not the Rona, but the rads. I understand that reference now.
Yeah,
in that reference now.
We're in the Fallout world now, man.
Watching the movie or the show, rather. It's been good. It's been good.
It's been good.
Lastly, I do want to welcome Season Gaming's Bitcast host, Dan. Nope, that's not Dan. That's is it Travis? Nope, not Travis. Is it Hogue?
No.
Nope. Oh, it's the least popular of the four. Ainsley Bowden.
Oh man,
He's here. Hello, sir. How are you?
Rough, but probably true, dude. How long are these notes? So we got to talk about all this.
No, I like to be prepared in the app.
Haynes was up very late playing No Rest for the Wicked last night. That's why.
I literally want to play it right now.
Wow.
Luke, as long as you're okay, I'm going to play it while we talk.
Absolutely,
hey, Luke,
I do that.
Luke, isn't
I
Haynes the
don't do that.
oldest of the season's gaming too of the cast?
If he's not the oldest, he looks
No,
like it.
Dan is the oldest by about a year and a half.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Okay.
Oh man, Dan looks great for his age. Ains, what's the difference between you and Oh man, it's crazy. No, Ains, I do like to over prepare with notes. I guess that's the teacher in me. There's no more terrible feeling than having a classroom full of kids and no plans with which to do anything.
Yep.
And
Did you just call us a classroom full of kids? It's probably appropriate, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
I do want to thank everybody that's here watching live. Of course, Captain Logan could not be with us today. He is attending Family Matters and having a good old time there. He is in the chat, so please indeed say hello to him. But I called in reinforcements, and it's fantastic. I do have the Rona, but I'm on the better side of it. So that's good. It was a rough few days, but I'm happy to be here and rocking with you guys. Of course, on the docket, I really do want to talk about Fallout and Sea of Thieves and how they might be the future pillars of Xbox kind of going forward. We will absolutely go back to the idea that Little Caesars is trash food for trash pizza. Or trash people, I suppose.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. But before we do that, I did want to kind of call attention to the fact that consistently and regularly, I'm compared to the Fallout boy.
I have a short coming out today about that. Just a heads up. Thanks, Nistan.
I love it. Here's the thing, guys, and I want to be really clear. I had not played Fallout until yesterday. Yesterday was my first foray into Fallout 4.
When you live something your whole life, sometimes you can't engage with it, on a daily basis. Yeah.
I'm on episode 4 of this show. It's really good. Really enjoying it. Started Fallout 4 last night. It's just Starfield on the ground. So how can you not love that? I'm actually really enjoying.
You started with the worst one.
Oh,
Oh
we
my
go.
goodness.
he started with the smart, most accessible one in Ains. Those other ones are good games. They did
Three's
not. They have
better.
not
Vegas
aged
is
well.
better. Come on.
Oh, you meant fall. Okay, I thought you meant like you started with the worst one, Starfield, and then
That's what I thought you meant too.
Oh,
yeah.
no. Yeah, I wasn't making fun of Starfield this time.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I loved Starfield and wasn't expecting to because I'm not a Bethesda guy by nature, and I really loved Starfield. So that was kind of my first tipping my toe into the Bethesda Game Studios world. I liked Skyrim. It was at the time it just didn't click, and I'm really enjoying Fallout as a result of enjoying Starfield. But it illustrate for me, at least in this early going, mind you. So correct me if you guys have more experience. How little Bethesda's formula seems to have evolved if I'm like, oh, this is just Starfield. And that's like a Game of the Year edition 10-year-old game kind of thing with Fallout 4. Is that true? You guys similar?
the combat has been a lot more refined and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's differences for sure, but like there's similarities with like all their games, right?
Yeah.
So like Skyrim, you could say, or like Elder Scrolls for example, it's like that's the melee system in Fallout, right? Like you can
Yeah.
they trade off every once in a while.
When
But
they added magic though to Skyrim, that was the big.
Right.
That magic was a big step up.
There's
from
just a
previous
few
Elder Scrolls.
systems that are different in Starfield that like make it unique enough that it's like not a Fallout. Like I could say it's definitely inspired by, made by the same people of. It's kind of like Abe's gonna hate me for this, but it's like when people say, "Oh, Elden Ring is like Dark Souls, but you could jump," like stuff like that. It's like there's definitely a lot more to it than just that.
Yeah,
But
I don't hate you for that.
Okay,
Luke, I wanted
Not
to
for
ask
that.
you, what do you think of the combat so far of Fallout comparing it to Starfield? Because we talked about that the other day. That I felt like Starfield, and Joe kind of mentioned this. Starfield's shooting is hands down their best shooting in combat, and I was just wondering what you thought comparing it to Fallout 4, because there's a even bigger jump from Fallout 4 to Fallout 3 in New Vegas.
So again, early on, these are very early impressions, and I've got plenty more to kind of experience, but it felt the same. And I've not touched Starfield since I guess I finished it, October, December, November, December, somewhere in there. So I haven't gone back. So, but it feels like I remember Starfield feeling, which is, I suppose, not good for Starfield.
Again, like Starfield, PlayStation guy coming to defend this game. So like Starfield's shooting's a lot more competent.
Yeah.
It feels a lot better. And like Fallout, you are very much encouraged to use the VAT system.
Yeah.
Especially for anything that flies.
Which I really like.
Yeah.
Didn't expect to. Did not expect to like VATs at all.
And where like VATs are in Starfield and where it's needed is the space combat. So like that's where again, like they swap. They're really good at like swapping systems around where it's like, this is again reminiscent to, doesn't feel exactly the same as. So like if you are into Fallout, you can't get into Skyrim, you can't get into Elder Scrolls, you can't get into Starfield. So like it's pretty interchangeable.
Joe, that's a great point. I didn't even realize that. You're right. The space combat is kind of like a little bit like VATS. You're absolutely right. One more question.
That shit's hard to control, man.
Well, I thought the space combat was competent as well. I thought.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of Starfield. Was space combat, the ship to ship.
So what you were saying, Luke, earlier, that are Bethesda games like this, and in Starfield and Skyrim, they're all kind of similar. I would say, yeah. And that's why I was kind of surprised at everyone's kind of negative reaction to Starfield. I'm like, this is, like you said, a different version of Fallout, but in a different setting, a little bit of different mechanics. Why is everyone just randomly, have we just changed our minds from Fallout in 2015 to Starfield in 2023? What happened? Where's the disconnect where everyone's just, I'm sick and tired of Bethesda games all of a sudden?
I'll take this. It's time. Like games have come and gone. Like I'm playing Fallout 4 right now, and like for the second time getting back into it. And it's making me appreciate games like Cyberpunk, where it's like, oh wow, this game's like, you really appreciate how well. Thank you, Hans. We're on each other's like good side today. Where like games mechanics are just unmatched, and so it's like other RPGs have come along and done similar things, possibly better. Like exploration in Starfield's rather literally barren. So like that, like it depends.
That was a choice.
I don't have to like the choice.
Yeah.
I put out on Twitter that like a joke saying Fallout is just Starfield on the ground, and people got like real like agitated by it, and I was like, oh, I poked something here. I
You
didn't
can't
mean to.
say stuff like that.
But it was fun. It was fun for me to like see, because like to me it is. But one person had a really rational like statement of why it's not, and they had to do with curated missions and a curated world
Yeah.
versus the procedural generation. To me, that's a real argument. Like that's a real reason why it might be so different. So I granted that logic quite a bit, but I really liked the formula, but it does need to evolve, I think, just a bit more.
Yeah.
I think what's unique about Bethesda games that I really like is we've talked about this many times, I know, but like the kind of freedom you have to kind of just do whatever. You can pick up everything in the environment. You can there's just a lot more freedom with the interaction with the world, which is really hard for other developers to nail, because it takes a lot of the engine, it takes a lot of specific coding to be able to do that. And I like that kind of freedom you have in Bethesda games, which even when compared to something like Cyberpunk or Witcher or some of the other major RPGs, they don't really nail that same aspect. But I think the other core aspects of the Bethesda games, as Joe was saying, when you talk about just your moment-to-moment gunplay, movement, gameplay, it still feels a little antiquated compared to where other RPGs have come up. So it's this weird kind of mix where you get this very unique experience you don't really get anywhere else, which is what I love about them. And that includes Fallout, Skyrim, Starfield, etc. But then I wish it was in a more kind of modern, evolved package at the same time, which obviously that's saying I want my cake and eat it too, right? Which is nearly impossible for developers to pull off. But I think that's where you kind of get that, to your point, Wally, I think that's where you get that kind of mixed opinion. I think people have been experiencing the Bethesda part of Bethesda games for a long time. And when Starfield released, the expectation was we're going to have that, but we're also going to have this really modern experience otherwise. And it kind of did that. Like, it is more modern than Fallout 4, or, their other games, but not to the degree I think people wanted.
I want to give a quick shout out to Bacon Gaming from the Nerd Chat with a $5 super chat. Some of my favorite people in the world in the same place, minus Luke. Man, I miss Logan. PCMR for the win, and I am joking, Luke. Well, oddly enough, Bacon, you were my favorite part of the Nerd Chat.
What?
And yet here we are. Then you bailed on me, and it's like, all right, I got to be here with Little Caesar here. It's crazy.
Bacon was so sad this morning. He was like, I
shout out to
want to quit
Bacon. You know what, Luke? It's all you to blame, because you can't stay up late and be on our show. Otherwise, we would have you and Logan.
What is this? Why are we at Saturday at noon? Like, Luke, is this the only time you're awake?
Yep. That's the end of the discussion.
Wait, one more.
Yes.
It's almost a break, so he has to be able to come on later. He has to be able to come on during the summer months. Quick question, wrapping up kind of like the Bethesda for all of you guys. I'm really interested to hear what Joe and Ains have to think, and get Jose here. What do you think?
Not Luke.
Yeah.
To be fair, Luke's new to Bethesda games in general. He's coming, and I appreciate his perspective as well, because he literally is going backwards in release. What do you think Skyrim is going to look like? Like, what has to change?
Elder Scrolls 6
for Elder Scrolls 6 to be a hit, or otherwise are people going to be just as disappointed, if not more disappointed, when it's another Bethesda game similar to Starfield, similar to Fallout? Sorry, go ahead.
In your answers, will you guys acknowledge that both Fallout and Elder Scrolls have live service elements with Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76, and how that impacts the formula? Because I think to Dan's question, that's a great question, but they both exist in live service, so why have a single player thing? Just acknowledge that part, because I'm curious. And also, real quick, let's give a shout out to Captain Logan.
Shout out to Logan.
Really miss chatting with you guys. Stay classy. Thank you for the $5 super chat.
Good to see you, Logan.
Is amazing and missed today for sure.
It's funny because when that super chat came in, it sounded like a whoosh, like a whip.
Did it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't he just paying back Luke for promoting the channel
and Google?
Yeah. As all of you know, podcasts are not profitable, so thank you. You are helpful.
What does like Elder Scrolls 6 have to do? It's a big question, because I think one thing that Todd really likes is like interacting with the world in terms of like picking things up, manipulating those said like items, and then using them to build something else. Like we saw that introduced with Fallout 4. We saw that a bit with Starfield, and I never touched any of that because that was base building is something I hate in games. I would really love for them to go away from that aspect because it is the weakest part of Bethesda for me, and I think the strongest aspect that they've had, but has not aged particularly well in, but I think can is the exploration. When you're just wandering through the woods and then like something happens, like you're met with a dragon or you're met with like, you know, some type of like mutated bear looking thing. Those moments are really awesome in Bethesda games. And the one thing that I didn't like in Starfield, I had issues with beforehand, and I was proven right, was like the randomly generated stuff. Man, let's get people that are actually building, you know, these bases, these tunnel systems, whatever have you, because when it's handcrafted, that's where it feels so much better, because you get to find things and pick up things in the world, and like whether it's like nodes or like TVs or whatever, like
that
logs.
like that Titanfall like level that I don't want to spoil. Like
Exactly.
that was awesome.
Yeah. So like you know, expand the exploration of your worlds. I think the combat's like Starfield's combat's really good. So I don't think it needs actually much work. It just needs the exploration bit. And that's what I think everybody fell in love with Skyrim. Just take a seat when it comes to the base building.
Do you think there's a healthy marriage to be had between the procedural generation and the curated content? Because that's my hope for what Todd supposedly says is coming soon, like the stuff that's coming to Starfield, but also like Dragon's Dogma had a lot going for it, a lot going against it, I think. But one of the coolest things was like dynamic combat. Like they had this world that interacted really well. Like we all shared different ways that we killed ogres or battled griffins. And that's a lot of that comes from procedural generation. But then there were other elements that had to be curated content that developers had their hands in putting together. And I think the marriage between the two is what's really important for Bethesda's formula to get right, because they've done it well with curated content. They've got a procedural generation that does work at times in Starfield. It's just too vast. I think if they can marry the two together, you've got a better formula.
I think also another thing you have to consider, and like the obvious comparison that's going to come up at some point, is like, I think Todd and Bethesda, they're going to feel a lot of pressure from Larian, like what Larian did with Baldur's Gate. And I'm not saying that will fully change what they do with like their engine and stuff, but I think that's part of the issue that people had with Starfield, was that like they did like the idea of procedural generation. They liked the idea of this insanely large universe, but at times it did feel empty compared to like Skyrim, because Skyrim and even Fallout, even though it was a big map, you can find stuff everywhere in the map. You can have experiences everywhere on the map. And while Starfield is beautiful everywhere on the map, and it's cool that it is created that way, there isn't stuff in all of those corners, right? And I think that that's part of where like they, as much as they wanted this big world, having more of that curation, I think is going to put some pressure. I'm curious to see also, there was a lot of complaints about the interactions when you meet with NPCs, right? Like that it's still that traditional Skyrim where it zooms into like the bust view, and they looked better than they did in Skyrim, but comparatively to what you see in games like Baldur's Gate, that's going to be interesting. And I also, last week I was listening to Unlocked and Paris was on, he was talking about like, he's thinking that part of what they might put in the next Xbox hardware is an NPC, like an NP, I can't remember the acronym, but like a neural processing circuit, basically, like something to help AI to be built into the system. I mean, could they utilize that in whatever they're building? Maybe, but that is a weird balance, man. Like, because it's, as much as it's cool to have computers do all the work for you, some of that takes away from those, like that one moment that we all have, the moment we have in BioShock, the moment we have had in like games that were just like everybody gets to that crazy experience. It's going to be weird how they balance that. And do you make it bigger, like longer? like Skyrim is already I don't know, if you go max 200-hour game, if you do everything in the game, do you really want it to be 300 or 400 hours, or do you want it to be shorter but like more valuable? Like that's a weird balance, and we're seeing that with like Helldivers. You know, I don't know how long No Rest for the Wicked Ains. I don't know if you do, but like I can't imagine that's as long of a game, but that was by design from Moon Studios. You know what I'm saying? So like playing that hour game is also going to, I think, play into it. We don't want just another 300-hour game to make it better.
Yeah.
And while we say that too, I do want to stress, like, I really like Fallout 4, guys. Like, and like, you know, we all
and Starfield.
enjoyed Starfield.
You love
Yeah.
Starfield too.
So when we're talking about the future of it, don't think we're nitpicking it for the sake of nitpicking.
I love the idea of a 20-hour campaign, but then all the side quests can take you much further. I'm a big fan of that recipe, because if you want to crit path a main campaign, get your main story, you're good. And then your side quests can be rich and vibrant and allow you to explore the world more. To me, that's the best way to explore those worlds, because a 300-hour crit path that's not enticing to me at all. I guess at my age, my time availability, but a 25-hour campaign, 20-hour campaign for a crit, and then if I want to go further, it's there. I like that idea a lot. I don't know if that's a great return of investment for creator or for developers either. That's how I prefer it as a consumer.
Ains, what do you think they're going to do for combat for Elder Scrolls to improve it? I'm thinking they've got to have some sort of parry or dodge, right? Like, you're the combat guy, you're the Scrolls guy, so I'm interested to see. They got to do something, right?
Yeah, I guess if they, it's kind of weird, because if you put in kind of like the Souls formula where you go iframes and dodging and types of things, right? When you play in first person, which I don't know what the split is, but I know I play in first person. It feels like that's the default mode for Bethesda games. That gets really kind of weird, right? It's hard to kind of make that feel normal. I think that's actually part of its problem with its combat is first person combat in an RPG is sometimes tough when it's not gunplay, like it's not an FPS, right? When you're talking about sword and shield. I guess we'll see how Avowed does it, because they're doing it. We'll see how that kind of feels. I think in Avowed's presentation, that was probably the clunkiest looking part of it, was the first person combat. So, but I agree with I agree with both Jose and Joe holistically, in the sense of exactly what Jose said. I liked what they tried to do with Starfield, but it does feel empty at times. And I would much rather have a curated, shorter experience. And Luke, to your point, just my own personal preference, I prefer a 20, 30, 40-hour campaign, and then give me the world to explore that has meaningful things in it. We're talking a lot, well, not we, but I think the industry's talking a lot about what AI can do in machine learning. And, we've talked, you guys know this, I kind of work in the space. So hearing, Jose, what you said around like, you start to talk about like large language models and generative AI and what those can do for games. I know a lot of people are talking about, and I have too, around like what it can do for like NPC conversations and where it can drive interactions in a game. And I think that's really interesting, but I think there's a long way to go there to make it interesting to the player. What I would much rather see is something where the world generates kind of meaningful interactions in it, side quests, instance things that can appear, right? We've seen that in a lot of games like Diablos and stuff, where you can have like kind of world things that appear and happen. But I think if those can be expanded to feel like they're more actually created by the developer rather than instanced, I think that can kind of keep the world interesting while not falling kind of victim to we have a gigantic world, but it doesn't feel like you're doing anything. So I don't know. And everything we're talking about is not easy to develop, right? You're talking about like hundreds and hundreds of people spending years working on this stuff. And it's got to be daunting for the teams like that, where it's like, we've got a game that's coming out 5 years from now and it has to hit on all fronts. Where the hell do we even start? I don't know. But I think the Baldur's Gate reference is a good one, because that game, no matter what you think about it, right, it did kind of take the industry by storm. It's one of the highest rated games of all time. It's won like every major award. So there is something to be said for that very kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? Very detailed kind of RPG experience that tells meaningful stories. But then you look at that, and it was in early access for 3.5 years. You know what I mean? Like they spent several years developing
community
it.
Helped make that.
Yeah, community helped make that game. So it's like, I don't see Bethesda doing that. So it's like, how do you even kind of approach the subject? Sorry, it's kind of all over the place, but
well, then I have to ask then, how much how much onus is on Sarah Bond or Matt Booty or any of the leadership at Xbox then to look at the work being done on 76 or Elder Scrolls Online and look at the studios that they have at their behest and say, hey, we're gonna Fallout 4 development starting now, regardless of what Bethesda Game Studios wants. We're putting X team on it. Elder Scrolls 6, we're putting X team on it, and they start making use of more than just Bethesda Game Studios to create and bringing in expertise. How much onus is on the leadership at Xbox to do that? Because it is absurd to think that you would have to wait another 10 years for Fallout 5 or Elder Scrolls 6 or whatnot.
Yeah. It's I mean, another big, like, very monumental task of, like, creating a studio is not that easy, and it takes a lot of money and effort and creativity behind it, and some people will have to let go of those reins. And do they really want to?
I was just gonna say that, Joe. I think Todd wants to do one more Elder Scrolls and personally one more Fallout, and then just
And
walk off.
Does he deserve to say that he gets to do that with no one telling him no?
Yeah, he's
going to tell Todd no?
I think so. And Luke, I'm right there with you. I don't think we're not going to get that Fallout 5 until all of us are 55, you know. But
retirement, baby.
65. Thank you.
65. You mean 85?
Yeah, I was going to say 65 is generous, Ains. If Fallout 5 comes on Ains' AARP card.
Yeah, I'll be awake at least.
But what we give PlayStation Studios credits for, we need somebody to start remaking and remastering the old ones, update Fallout 3, update New Vegas. So sorry, Joe. I just want to say no. Todd, yeah. I feel like Todd deserves it personally.
I think that's exactly what's probably in the pipeline, is some type of remaster or rework of Fallout 3 so that it doesn't crash all the time. And same with Vegas, like, real bad when it comes to that. That's why I started 4, because I know 4 is supposedly the weakest, but it's like, it works, so I'm gonna go there.
You can sprint in it.
Exactly. So, like, you know, it's those things that make me want to go back to 4. And when it comes to what's next for Fallout, it is a really popular question, because, like, the show's huge, and all that, but, like, creating a studio is really, unless Todd's like, hey, I'm gonna be in this, like, Uber producer role where I get to put my hands in all these projects, and, you know, I get to steward people, like a Miyamoto-esque type of situation where I'm, like, stewarding people of where the direction of each of these goes into, while allowing their own creative freedom. I mean, it all sounds good on paper, but again, that paper is like a couple $100 million to go and make those things a reality, where we haven't right now in the industry the big question mark of, like, what AAA games are costing too much, and you're seeing reductions of studios. So as much as I'd like to see them, you know, go out there and make something, or make a Fallout, I don't see that happening.
Can I ask
15 years?
All right, so I want to ask a bit, because I grant you I am new to Bethesda Game Studios, and you guys are certainly veterans. And, you know, Cheeseworks in the chat was talking about how you have to respect Todd Howard, and I see and hear that all the time, and I get it, right? There are some creators that you just let cook, but as somebody who's more on the outside than the inside of Bethesda Game Studios, I look at Fallout 76 taking years to get going. I look at Starfield kind of landing and not sticking its landing, despite my love for it. It didn't catch the world on fire. And side note, it's unfair to expect it to be Skyrim when Skyrim had years to build its reputation versus Starfield.
With iteration.
Agreed. But I look at, and even people saying, like, Elder Scrolls Online didn't do what it needed to do right out of the gate. And again, none of these things should. But does it not take somebody to say, hey, you're doing too much? Like, you don't have the bandwidth to do this, or it's not working, or you've not iterated. Don't they need someone to come in and say no to them at some point? Because I do think that, like, I see Kojima and oh my goodness, Last of Us guy,
Neil Druckmann,
and they have gained such great clout, deservedly so, for masterpieces in their realm, but they've almost gotten so big that no one says no. Is there a danger there?
Well, I think the one of the biggest dangers is, let's just say for a second, let's pretend for a second that Todd is actually the mastermind and like he's going to make the best version of both Fallout 5 and 6. You still run the issue of, so what happens when he retires then? Who fills that void? You need to start building that capacity now. Like that is an issue they really probably are thinking about. They're just not publicizing it. But like the reality is that Todd theoretically could go at any time. Like something bad goes wrong and he's like, I'm out. And if they don't have someone in that pipeline, that's a huge issue, not just for Bethesda, but for Xbox and Microsoft. Right. So they, in my opinion, and this is just spitballing, but what I would do if I was in the situation is like take 76, keep it going for the next 10 years, right? In different iterations to keep us satiated until we have whatever Fallout 5 is going to be after Elder Scrolls 6. If you can do the remakes, that's cool. I would definitely play 3 in New Vegas myself. You know what I'm saying? But that's
you
probably
have to think
relatively
leak or
you
not.
would think so with this,
right?
maybe, but they might just be starting after this. They were waiting for the success of the show. So that means it's going to be a little bit of time. But here's what I would do is find out whoever that person who's taking over is going to be, let them take the reins on 76 and let them play. Right? Play with mods from the community, play with different ideas, play with a parry system, play with, different elements so that you can learn from that and utilize that for Fallout 5. And that's easier said than done, right? Because there's the issue of like, if you discover something 4 years in, you can't go back and restart the whole project to add this thing. But again, we have some time while they're working on Elder Scrolls 6 where they could play with some of those things to really see what it would look like in that Fallout universe, because maybe that's the iteration that we're looking for, where we can start to marry some of what we love with like purposefully designed and created ideas and some of that neural engine stuff like Ains was talking about. Like they really have got to I think they're realizing that the model they've done for years, while it was amazing and it is a historical like landmark, it just doesn't last forever, right? It's like a car. Like the first time we saw a car was insane, but then you have to make the car better. You know what I'm saying? And so like that's I think what they're working through right now. But it will be interesting to see with Todd. And for my opinion to your question, Lucas, I think they should let him if he wants to. He has certainly earned that. He's been there longer than many of the execs in the entire like Microsoft boardroom. You know what I'm saying? So like I think he's earned that time to do it, but they need to be smart and start building a legacy after him. Otherwise, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot.
Also, and I do want to mention this because there's probably someone yelling in their car right now. What is known as the best Fallout game is New Vegas, and that is Obsidian's baby. So
fair.
Again, like these things could
better.
I mean, listen, I don't know. It could be. I haven't really played either of the. So just to reiterate, like it can be done. It's not the impossible task. I always hate when we like build monuments of people. So like, there could be someone out there that could absolutely do it.
Yeah,
not even good. There is someone out there that could do it.
Luke, I agree with you. I do think they need to spin it off and allow other people to take over. It's just I just don't know if Bethesda or Todd is willing to. And I'm just thinking about it. It goes back to I think games in general. And I think Logan was saying he wants a what did he say, like a 50-hour campaign or whatever. If you want to start riding the success of these TV shows, which will have another season of Fallout, and I know we're going to talk about that, like. I think it goes back to scope. Why can't we shorten the scope of these games? Get out shorter experiences. We're going to see that with Hellblade. Why can't we apply that to other Xbox franchises, especially now that there are so many under the umbrella? I think we got to start changing our expectations of what some of these games can look like and how long they could be.
Isn't that what we understand Avowed and Outer Worlds to be? Outer Worlds.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I was going to touch on is what we're kind of all saying in various ways is that if you look at Xbox as a publisher now, right, and all the creative talent they have under them, you think about all these IPs. I have to imagine that you mentioned like Sarah Bond and Matt Booty and obviously Phil and everyone else at that executive level, Luke, they have to be having conversations around how do they bring together under this massive organization now, IP, how do they focus on IP strength and market viability? And then how do they curate experiences over the next decade, right? Because remember, they're not planning 1 and 2 years out, right? They're planning decade here and there. So how do you plan to deliver a new Elder Scrolls game, a new Fallout game, a new Halo game, a new, all these gigantic IPs they have? Who's working on them? Can we bring all these new studios together? What's the talent pool look like? You know, those conversations that I'm sure are going on have to be insane, because trying to organize that, you know, that's why they get paid the big bucks, right? Like, I mean, that's an impossible task. And I think when you talk about Fallout, I would argue, if you think about everything under the Xbox publishing arm now, Fallout's got to be up there, right? As one of their most well-known and beloved IPs, especially now after the, you know, show success, to Wally's point. So they're probably going to have conversations around exactly that. Look, we had Vegas, and Obsidian is a very talented RPG developer. They have all kinds of talent in-house. Todd's over here. Elder Scrolls is next for Bethesda. We know that. They've said it. They have to think. You cannot wait for Elder Scrolls 6 to come out to then work on Fallout. You just can't, in my opinion. I have to imagine they have to assemble, like, for lack of a terrible analogy, assemble an Avengers team, right, to come together and say, where are our RPG minds? Todd and team and whoever he pulls, I'm sure he'll pull the best people, will be on Elder Scrolls 6, right? And then in parallel, we'll have this team over here working on Fallout, alongside Outer Worlds 2 and Clockwork Revolution and, you know, all these other experiences they have going on. They just have a lot in the pipeline. But I guess, yeah, they've got to figure out how to get a Fallout out. And I wouldn't name it Fallout 5. I'm a big fan of the Fallout subtitle, right? Make a new experience like Vegas, put it somewhere else, tie it
Fallout,
to the universe.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean, we're halfway there already. No. But yeah, you know, something like that.
No, but he meant it.
He meant it.
No, I love KC. But yeah, I think you got to go that route. But I can only imagine the conversations going on, because you just can't wait 12, 15 years till a new Fallout comes out. That's ridiculous.
If I'm in that C-suite, I'm working on that Avengers level team, and I'm doing it by bringing in people from other studios in this
That's
show.
always
the way. That's the
absolutely
way.
You have to. And guys, let's put a pin in this, because I want to read our patrons real quick. I realize I've neglected to do that. But I want to read our patrons real quick and then come back to it. So pin in the idea of C-suite Avengers level, something they're already doing, while I read our patrons for this week. Remember, you can go to patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass to support the show. You can also become a channel member if you'd like to do that as well, whichever your preference. But we really just appreciate you being here. I'm going to roll this clip right here. Bam. Shout out to Chris 1H1D, also in the chat. Nicholas Johnson, Ellery Woods Parker III, Nicholas Downey, Rob Frawley II, Taozochi, Xbox Skittle, Randolph Thor 19, Silking It, Hafrican, aka Charles Jones, Game Positive, Jam Pack Sam, Matt Valdez, Neil Prime 33, Rick Davis, Red Beast, Xbox Mike 29, the Lord, Sir, Master, Allfather, and Butler James Suddy, Brendan Myers, aka the Winter Gamer, Sony's VP of Marketing Kevin Butler, Clint Coombs, DJ Hero, and Dano12. Thank you guys for being patrons of XEP. We appreciate you so much. It makes the absolute world go round. And thank you to our channel members. Your names are scrolling down below also. Guys, that Avengers level C-suite decision-making bit, we've seen and heard from different parts of Xbox talk about this. But recently we had Blizzard come out and talk about how Xbox has actually let them just do what they want to do, which I thought was really cool. They were in a VGC interview. It was World of Warcraft executive producer Holly Longdale saying that Blizzard has had helpful meetings with Minecraft developer Mojang and the team behind Elder Scrolls Online. And they've been able to just talk about what works for them, what doesn't, running a live service. I love that that's what's happening. And I really hope those are happening quickly. It used to be summits that where people had to like coordinate, fly, go to, but I hope it's as simple as a Slack channel when it needs to be, where they can just talk and say, hey, how are you guys managing this issue, that issue? I think that's a huge element of game creation in a live service realm in this day and age, because you have to get to your consumer quickly. Am I outside of the realm on that thought process?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think that new leadership, again, like there's a lot of powerful people with a lot of probably unique thoughts that have been brought together under one umbrella. And I can only imagine the task for like Phil right now to try and bring all these people together, right, to work together, because everyone's going to have their own thoughts on how things should progress. And they're also going to be, you're talking about merging companies where you start to get into brand loyalty and company loyalty. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, I'm sure, a lot of chaos. But I think you're right that they've got to kind of have a meeting of the minds, get all the top execs together and kind of just lay out all of their studios, all of their projects. And I'm sure they've done this, right? And then say, okay, what are our top priorities? There's certain things you have to keep going, right? Obviously, you have tons of live service on the Xbox side now because you've brought Call of Duty in. You already mentioned Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, Sea of Thieves. You've got, lesser, I wouldn't say lesser, but like ones that'll eventually tail off, the Halo Infinites of the world, the State of Decay 2s, etc. But you've got all these things that have to keep going without any sign of hiccup. Call of Duty probably being the biggest, right? But you also want to utilize these new resources to start to think about, okay, how do we take that next step? Because I tell you, if we get to like 2030 and we're waiting on Elder Scrolls, there's no Fallout, a couple other games have landed flat, we're all going to be looking back at like, what the hell happened here? You spent, $100 billion and you really haven't delivered a whole lot. I don't think that's going to be the case, but, it's I don't know. It's a tenuous situation, I think, for Xbox right now.
They've definitely got a lot of live service things happening simultaneously, from the small stuff like Grounded to the big stuff like Call of Duty, and the stuff that exists kind of like World of Warcraft is just kind of there. It's kind of like
that's what I mean. Like where does that rank in an overall publisher view now, right? Because World of Warcraft for Blizzard was huge.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft for Xbox, does it hold the same weight? Do you keep the same development team on it? How does it compare with other things? Do you hire new people? Can you afford to do that? Or do you shift resources? How long do they support games like Grounded or the smaller live service things? Or did they move those resources? I think those are all questions that they have to answer.
Did you guys see that? Like, I'm going to loop it to Fallout as a relevant thing here, because Fallout has seen just a huge sales spike as a result of the show. Yep. The show just got greenlit for a second season, which makes perfect sense. I was actually thrilled by the idea of a second season because I'm only several episodes in, but I've been thrilled. Have you guys seen my favorite character? It's this guy right here.
It's yourself?
No, actually not. It's actually this guy right here.
Whoa!
One of my favorite characters in the Fallout show. It's really cool because almost uncanny because you can put it up there.
I mean,
and it's the same picture.
It is.
Everybody
laughed.
I've also got this one. The last time I was on display, like being judged, this is what it felt like.
Why is his head so big?
Yeah, right.
He's got a big head. He's got a big head. I just felt like it was that image that stuck through. That's my favorite character in the show because every time I see Joseph Moran, and so I was just really happy to see that second season greenlit because that means more success for the Fallout franchise.
Sure. You got a Vault Boy for yourself? Of course you don't.
He's a bobblehead.
Joe's got his Halloween costume now, though. That's the great news.
That's right. Then he has to dress up. Fun fact, Joe, that actor, actor right here, which is just you. Again, I really want to stress that. That is the actor in Spider-Man that said, Spider-Man, do a flip.
Do a flip. Yeah, do a backflip.
Yeah. Just want to congratulate you on that.
Thanks, man. I really do.
Yeah, no problem. Here for you. But yeah,
hey, just so you know, hey, Luke.
Yeah.
Your mom's car, those seats go all the way to the back.
I don't even have a comeback for that. But if I wanted to come back, you know what? Never mind. All right.
Oh, there was definitely
Yeah, we got it. We're stopping there.
Dang.
But the Fallout franchise just absolutely exploding as a result of this show. I feel like they've got an extra set of pressure Microsoft does at stewarding them because, to Ains's point about, World of Warcraft was big for Blizzard. Is it big for Xbox? Fallout, I think now is huge for Xbox. I think as a result of this show and that spike and the interest in people knowing what Fallout is, it's now becoming a pillar for Xbox. And we talked about that on last week's XEP. I think a lot of shows are talking about it. Gears and Halo, Forza are smaller pillars now. It's Call of Duty. It's seemingly Fallout. And then Sea of Thieves, guys, we just saw that it hit a 40 million number, and that's not concurrent, but 40 million is huge.
Nothing to scoff at.
And that's ahead of its PlayStation 5 launch, which is in
80 million now.
Oh yeah, that's
Whoa.
how could it not be? The PS5 launches on April 30th. So, what are the pillars of Microsoft now? What are the pillars of Xbox as a brand?
Yeah, it's a great question that we don't really we don't hear many shows talk about, because it's like there is now so much that encompasses the brand itself, where it's like, I guess it's like whatever the pillar of like Blizzard, Bethesda, Infinity War or Activision, whatever, like whatever those are the pillars of, it's like that's a lot to maintain. So there's just to me, I think the quote unquote pillars, maybe we have to rephrase it into something else, because to me there's a lot of support systems there.
Yeah, I think, and I wanted to ask Ains this. I'm really interested. You're asking what are the pillars now? I think we're going to find out with this next conference, right? Like, how is the next Xbox conference going to look? Is Call of Duty going to be on the Xbox stage, or is it going to be its own event? But are we going to see that giant Xbox logo in front of everything now? Like, when are we going to start to see that? Not Bethesda Studios.
Agree.
Yeah.
Xbox.
Agree.
Bethesda. Xbox.
I don't know why we haven't already.
Exactly.
It's
Like,
crazy.
are they saving it? And I feel like for this next Xbox showcase, like, okay, everything now, everything we've acquired, we are all Xbox now. So, Ains, yeah, take it away. Like you said, why are they still
don't know.
seemingly not doing that? Why am I not seeing the Xbox logo and then the Bethesda logo for the Fallout TV show, stuff like that?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. It's a good question. I think I don't know, just my own BS opinion is there's something to do with the publishing arms, because Bethesda's still its own publisher, so is Blizzard. But I think it doesn't matter at this point. I agree with you. I would really like to see at this conference in June, Call of Duty be featured, along with anything Blizzard's working on, maybe a tease of that Blizzard new game. And everything should be Xbox related, in my opinion. I don't know why they're kind of holding out on that. I don't know if they're trying to, maybe there's some market research. The only thing I could think is there's some market research that, from a confusion standpoint, if you know nothing about what we're talking about, you're just some guy on the street, right? And you see Call of Duty with an Xbox logo behind it, and you're only a PlayStation player. Does that cause confusion? Do you start to think Call of Duty's not coming? I don't really know. We're not privy to all those details, but the short answer is I agree with you. I don't know why everything under this umbrella should be marketed as Xbox now.
It's very frustrating. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Luke. I was going to say Joe, as he's playing PlayStation while we're talking here.
Oh, because I wanted to see if you pop Grounded. Do you see?
That's what I was just going to ask you. On Sea of Thieves right there, does it show the Xbox? Does it show Xbox?
Yes, not on Sea of Thieves because it's a beta. It's not live yet. But on Grounded, it pops Obsidian first, then Xbox Game Studios.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which to me, I think is a fine order as long as it's popping that Xbox logo big. I don't mind it, but it needs to be big. And if you're at a showcase, pop that Xbox logo first. Like when you launch a game, I'm okay with the developer being first. But at a showcase, it should be Xbox first. And I'm curious also to Dan's point, like, does Call of Duty get its like Starfield type showcase? Because do you need that? Like, do you need that for Call of Duty? We all know what Call of Duty is, right?
Yeah.
So I think you see Call of Duty pop, but it's going to be like at a later time because they usually now show their stuff at around August. So it's like we'll see more on Call of Duty sometime else.
Yeah. I want to point Z Black
I think
Rider
they have to tease it.
Give me. I want to point. Z Black Rider said they should really drop a Fallout 5 tease at the game show. If it's there, if that's something they're actively working on, don't drop it.
Guys, we don't need another Elder Scrolls tease. Let's be real.
I was just going to say, look at the Elder Scrolls 6 tease. It's like 7 years old.
Yeah. And Metroid Prime 4, like, I don't think they should drop it unless it's real. Don't do it unless it's a real.
Like they're developing it congruently, you mean? Like, so they'll drop similarly?
Correct. There's no
like
need
in active development.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like, hey, we're thinking about it. I don't want that to be the case.
That's fair.
I don't think it causes confusion for the gamer. Ains, you're like, does the PlayStation gamer get confused? Also, who cares? Gamers will find their way to the platform. I don't mean that
I agree with you.
I
agree with you.
I don't think that brand confusion doesn't happen nearly the way it used to. When you walk into the store and grandma doesn't know what to buy. No one walks into stores anymore. Target's pulling physical stuff out in 2025. Like, it's not a thing anymore. And
I mean, this may transition into the next segment here, but it's like Xbox is now very forward thinking of, hey, we need to get into where the consumers are, where the audience is, and not just confine it to the box anymore. Again, I just opened up Grounded and Sea of Thieves right now on my PlayStation 5. They're about getting their products in the most eyes as possible. And, to me, I think that's a net positive as a PlayStation, centric gamer, that I get to go play one of my favorite games, which is Sea of Thieves, on my PlayStation, and it being the best version to play on.
And to that same point, Joe, like, it's not that it's the same thing, because it's not, but like on my PC, I literally just finished playing Final Fantasy Remake. I just downloaded Returnal, and I know those are years old now. Like, I understand that's different.
They're practically PS3 games.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That's a PS4
that doesn't
game,
count.
I'm just saying, man. I'm saying all of the companies. This is what's happening. Like, this is not it's a play for money. Like, they want our money. They want to make great games too. Don't get me wrong. They love games, but like, they want to make money. Just put it more people can play them. Like, it's not rocket science.
No, it's not. And the new SIE CEO, that's a pain in the ass to say. Since Jim Ryan left on April 1st, has already said we got to be on more platforms and we got to increase margins. PlayStation, it's coming. It's a matter of time.
And God forbid I say that on my show. People are like, I have even no idea.
Yeah, we talk about this on Cast all the time, right? It's like money's going to drive the decision making. It's that simple.
Yeah,
I got blasted on last week's episode by someone in the YouTube comments for being a Sony fanboy for saying that it's good that their stuff is everywhere. It's like, no, it is good that their stuff's everywhere. They need to survive. They need to make more games.
I've been preaching this since Helldivers has come out, where it's like, if you don't think someone at a Sony boardroom sees the success of Helldivers day and date on PC and PlayStation 5, and that's what they've promised so far, right? Just multiplayer games, guys, don't worry. But if you don't think someone in the boardroom who looks at those margins goes, well, this is really successful, why don't we just do this more often? You got to be kidding yourself. Like people really have to understand, like, the people in the boardroom are not thinking about, my console exclusivity. They're thinking about how their shareholders think about, the prospect of that arrow going up on a graph. Yeah. So I think Xbox is very forward, thinking in this term of like, hey, listen, our consoles, Xbox community that is listening, hi, they're great. And as well as they are and as awesome as they are, we're not going to catch up to PlayStation anytime soon. We have a smaller, more, a much smaller community than them. So in order to get these big games that we want, we can't just go, okay, 20 million plus people on or 20 plus or 30-ish million Game Pass members are going to help drive all these games to, making back their money and then some. So I think, by getting out of that mentality, going, hey, listen, we'll put our games on our platforms first. We'll put them on Game Pass first. We'll let them do what they can on the respective platforms, and then we'll put them somewhere else when we feel like the time is right. That just makes so much sense. Look, it's been how many years since Sea of Thieves? What, 2017? Right.
Yep.
So, guys, it's been a minute. It coming to PlayStation doesn't take away anything. Even with a smaller game like Hi-Fi Rush, which very critically acclaimed, awesome. Let it come here. Like Pentiment. What are you losing by Pentiment being here? So, to me, I really do like the approach that Xbox has done, where it's like, let's just put these games on more places. Let's see what happens. And what we're seeing right now is just they have more games on the top 25 in the PlayStation charts than PlayStation first party does.
I know PlayStation's dead, man.
Right.
That's crazy.
He's dead.
That was kind of the thing I was getting at, was I think it was Derek Strickland from Tweaktown, who did a lot of good coverage during the the Activision Blizzard acquisition deal, could just kind of pointed out on socials. He was like, "Hey, Microsoft's got more top listings on the PlayStation Store than PlayStation does," which makes sense given the Fallout franchise's explosion in popularity. You've got Minecraft, you own Sea of Thieves, which is set to come out. Grounded is in there. Overwatch is in there. Call of Duty, of course, is there. They may have bought it, but it's still theirs, and that gives them survivability. And then what was lost to Joe's point about putting Pentiment, about putting Hi-Fi Rush there? Nothing. Xbox didn't end when Pentiment was playable on Switch. It did not end when people on PlayStation could check it out, or Hi-Fi Rush. More people got to play it. I mean, those games weren't going to light the world on fire despite their high quality bar. And then, we just saw listings on the ESRB in a couple different regions for Kenna Bridge of Spirits to make its way to Xbox. That's great. Why wouldn't we want that, right? Like, I think that's fantastic. I hope for a time when we can see Helldivers make its way onto Xbox. And Nisa Howard, a great supporter of all of our shows, I believe, one of the first channel members and the very first super chat on this show ever. I am going to get an Asus ROG Ally Extreme once I get my money back from my bad purchase and being able to play Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation games, possibly Nintendo games with an emulator on one device. I mean, PlayStation just put out info on its PC app that in some ways makes it even look superior to Xbox's ongoing app support, because you can get achievements in multiple spots. I was just going
to say, Luke, I know as much Ains hates trophies and achievements.
They matter. They're so important.
And I can't wait to see Joe convert over to his new PC, getting the latest and greatest
his
of
third
PlayStation
PC, right?
Studios. He's going to be unlocking those platinum trophies on his couch, on his PC. I can't wait, Joe.
I can't wait. Listen, if
real quick, bye to
true,
Logan. Logan's been in the chat. Shout out to you, Logan. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Logan. Love you, Logan. Ains is going to pop his first platinum on PC. Can you believe it?
I have like 7 platinums. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
It's more than I do.
I have almost 70.
I'm not proud, Jose, believe me.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked. No,
like the first 2 were an accident. I don't know what happened.
I think 3 or 4 of my 7 are like Vita games. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Whoa, that's
God, I love the Vita.
Vita, classic.
I love the Vita. But that's the vision, right? Is just fine. Open the client on whatever box you have, whatever piece of plastic is running. Open the client, get your achievements, get your trophies, rock on. And like, to me, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
it's actually funny you say that. And all jokes aside, Wally. So for those who don't listen, Wally and I give each other shit all the time because he likes achievements. I don't, and we just joke about it. So that's where that came from. But I actually agree with you. In fact, I'm kind of in the mid of writing an article right now where I want to talk about how if the future is just the platform is you play where you want to play in the ecosystem you want to play, right? And the games are generally speaking everywhere, which is where we are migrating to as we're discussing, right? Then the important thing for the platform and the ecosystem becomes UI, UX, and usability. You need to be able to change that user experience, right? To create something where the user experience is superior on your platform versus another. And I think that's, if you look at something like, say, an iPhone versus an Android device, right? People have their allegiances to companies, what have you. But you talk about the difference in the UI, the flexibility, the ability to code certain things like Android has that Apple doesn't. Apple goes with a different approach to usability. And no matter what you prefer, that's how people are choosing those devices other than sheer brand loyalty. But I think that Xbox, if they're going to be the first one to make this migration and they're already third in the console space, which we know they are, then they have to do something else outside of saying we're going to have the most powerful console, because that didn't work for the Series X. They need to do something else. And to hear Sarah Bond saying we're going to make the technical leap, it's like, oh, okay, good. Another bullet point that's not going to matter. Then
the only way it matters, I think, if it's a dockable thing, if it's a Switch like. I think that's
user
the only
experience.
Way.
So you just made my point. That's a different user experience.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Apologies.
You know what I mean? You have to change the game. You have to do something that's going to be a different user experience to the player, rather than just saying we have 120 frames and you have 118, because that's not moving the bar.
No one truly actually cares about that. Like,
no. I saw a 20-person panel and a Twitter live spaces about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's got to be
Sorry,
real.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, inside source told me, guys.
Yeah.
Here it is. Come on.
I was
Twitter
having fever
aggregators.
dreams, guys. All right. I don't know what I was doing.
That's true. Luke saw his great grandpa that fell down the watchtower. Anyway, for the trophy room, like that was something I was trying to echo a lot of. Is just like it's about with this whole PC app that they're doing. It's about unification of like what their ecosystem means. Everything for PlayStation at this point in time links back to that console, right? Or back to a console-like experience, like your trophies and PSN profiles on PC, and like how PlayStation has the PlayStation Portal that right now acts as an accessory to the PlayStation 5. If we're not thinking that like PlayStation and Xbox have seen the success of the Switch, see how there's actually curiosity to the actual mobile front in terms of like dedicated hardware,
And
we're
the
kidding
Steam
ourselves.
Deck.
The Steam Deck, right?
Yeah.
We're kidding ourselves. PlayStation even admitted we're like, we need to get into mobile in a bigger way. We need to get into PC in a bigger way. And so these are the baby steps that PlayStation's doing to secure that what is a PlayStation, but the ecosystem of PlayStation. And Xbox has the luxury of being there first, where they've been linking PC and Xbox together. So now that like when you talk about, which was so controversial back in the day, of like Xbox games on PC, as we've shown, it's only made their games better because more people are playing those games together. So
Has it made their games better?
I think so. Absolutely.
I'm thinking about, I guess, the lack of hits out of Xbox.
Okay. So I would say let's take out the lack of quote unquote hits that social media would say is a hit, right?
Okay.
Remember, we live in an echo chamber. So
Sure.
like to me, what's a hit? The fact that Sea of Thieves is like 6-7 years strong and
Mhm.
has 40 million users, right?
Okay.
The fact that like Halo Infinite could, last a long drought of like good press or publicity, being on multiple platforms when you have so many live service games like Xbox, it just means more people get the chance to play, and it means that game lives longer. So for me, I'm like
Horizon 5, another one.
Exactly. A lot of people don't think about like how big a game like Minecraft is. But holy shit, you
forget
play
about it.
Minecraft everywhere. Carry over that success from an iPad to an Xbox. It doesn't matter. And so if anything, it shows like the true nature of how the game's going to be. Look at Roblox, look at Minecraft. Those are probably like those were the canary in the coal mines of what games are going to be like in the next few years. So like, yeah, no, Xbox has had big hits. I think we get lost in, but they're not the blockbuster hits like a God of War where everybody's talking about it for like a week or two. But like those conversations die anyway.
Yeah.
Will you put a pin in that thought real quick? Okay. Blockbuster hits. That's what we're coming back to. Kevin Ainsworth said in chat, and I want to call this out. He said, "You two Ains, I can't watch live, but Bitcast gets me through half a work week every week. Loving it." I want to give this a general shout out to Seeing Community. Logan couldn't be here. I was able to call on the Nerd Chat and Cast Co-op to be here. I watch your shows. I watch Kevin Ainsworth's show. I watch some of the Trophy Room sometimes. It's really cool to see just how much our communities support each other and are good to each other, and how we all get each other through work days. And more importantly than anything else we talk about today, I just wanted that comment just gets me. I saw Todd Oxtra on the Nerd Chat last week. I love watching Jam Pack Sam and Kevin Ainsworth each week. I love watching Ains and his success as he watches Hogue and Travis argue. It's cool, and I just appreciate that sentiment and mentality, because it lifts each other up. Rising tides lift all boats, and I think that's something we need to
it's a great community. So thank you for that. I was just going to say, to Joe's point, like I quickly looked because I remember Minecraft had sold over. Remember, Minecraft was a paid game.
Yep.
And it sold over 400 million copies, and that's before you talk about the creator copies. So if you don't know, you can buy creator suites in Minecraft where you can actually, it teaches you how to code. So my son has a copy of that, which is really cool.
That's
but it said Minecraft in March had 180 million players in March. 180 million, and that's not like all-time played. Like, that's people who played the game in March. That's not like a total count. So yeah,
that's
and then when I was Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's nuts. And then when I was in LA last year for that press event, they talked about I think it was Matt Booty was talking about like how a lot of their stuff is obviously, as we know, focused on monthly active users, right? MAUs, which you see a lot from the analysts in the industry they post about. But it doesn't get publicized a lot. But they said that Xbox games, which includes Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls, they have over 150 million just in those IPs alone of monthly active users. So if you think about ESO, Fallout 76, Minecraft over here, the Halo, Sea of Thieves, Forzas, etc. of the world, like the monthly, the monthly recurring player base in Xbox from what would be considered live service is absolutely insane.
Yep.
And now you've added World of Warcraft, Diablo 4, Call of Duty, like, yeah.
When you think about the microtransaction element of that, right? So like last night
Yes.
we were playing Warzone. I bought the Cheech and Chong pack because I was like, gotta represent my culture. And it was absurdly expensive. It was hilarious. But like just that was one interaction. And I felt like I'm happy to support because I play that game so much. Like I'm happy to drop that money. Like
Sure.
But you do that over those games, and it goes back to what Luke asked about, like, what is the pillars of Xbox? I think there are lots of them. Those are great examples, but I don't think that's the way they're looking at this game anymore. I think they're of the mindset of like, we don't want one great game every 10 years. We want 10 great games once a year. You see what I'm saying? And because that's a smarter financial option, right? That hedges your bets in case one of them doesn't hit. I think that was a hard lesson they learned from Starfield. And again, I love Starfield. I'm not hating on Starfield, but Luke is right. It wasn't the hit that they were anticipating, right? They wanted it to be this like global tour de force, and maybe it will in its third, fourth, fifth iteration like Skyrim is, but it's just not there yet. And so they're like, we can't do that again. We can't wait 10 years on this IP and do that. We've got to build stuff in the meantime.
And I just want to say, Danny, you have to ask us permission before you say the Cheech voice, okay? You gotta ask.
Dan is half.
God, I know Ains is chomping right now. I know what you want to say.
I'm not saying a word.
I know, yeah.
I'm not saying a word.
But if you guys
In Ains's mind,
parties,
yeah.
You go. Joe, you have no idea what Ains. He's in
like
his
the little,
head right now,
the little
dude.
bubble behind, like above Ains's head is just like. Exactly. It's just a little mini like Vault Boy Luke building a wall.
You gotta remember, we have cast co-op with Ains. The stuff he says before we go live is wild.
Is he talking? I'm not even bring it up, Ains. I'm going to spare you right now. I'm going to try to keep us on track, Luke. Going back to what you said, you put a pin on the blockbuster games. I know you, Ains. And what Joe is saying, does that even matter? Why does Xbox have to be like PlayStation? Hasn't Phil Spencer himself said we only what did he say, that quote during the kind of funny interview was like living in PlayStation's shadow. And like we already lost no good to try to be like PlayStation. And I'm right there with him. Why does Xbox have to have your just one game?
PlayStation doesn't want to be like PlayStation.
It doesn't
they're literally changing as we speak. You know what I mean? Like, why would you model a dead model?
Yeah, Xbox needed the PlayStation formula all throughout the Xbox One generation.
Exactly. They needed it 10 years ago.
Xbox One. Yes. Exactly.
No longer does that need to be a thing, because Xbox now it is Call of Duty, it's Grounded, it's Sea of Thieves, it's World of Warcraft, it's Fallout 76. It's now this brand that cannot be ignored, and it will exist in perpetuity everywhere. They're not selling boxes. They're not going to sell boxes. And that, these blockbuster hits like Hellblade looks dope, but it's not the God of War we kind of hoped. I think many of us hoped it might have been.
I want a good Hellblade game, Luke. I don't want it to be like God of War.
But I don't think you represent. I think that mentality is good, and I want a good Hellblade regardless. But I think a lot of people thought and wanted Hellblade to be a God of War, right? They wanted
not Ragnarok, please.
I was going to say, Ragnarok.
Yeah, say that again. I agree with that. But hold on one second. Let me finish my point. Because I agree with, I think, a lot of your kerfuffles there. But I look at Avowed and I'm like, I don't know what this is doing for anybody. Like, I don't know what Avowed is. I don't know who is it for? What's it doing?
I'm excited for it, but it didn't show well. I'll give you that.
It did not show well. But I've been wrong before, right? Like, I'm just now loving Fallout. I just found Starfield. I'm not one to judge that. I'm just saying I don't think it's moving a needle.
So
that's
I will say this. I will say this: the whole like, why does Xbox need the blockbuster thing? It's because the narrative is that Xbox needs those things.
The X platform.
And as many Xbox, here's where I'll start getting boost. As many times as like the Xbox fans go like, "Oh, it's obvious by PlayStation and games media. It's so obvious. You just take a look at it." It's like you guys say the same thing though. Like you guys echo the narrative, and so that just it becomes more of a permanent thing. As what we've seen in the past like 40-minute conversation, it's like Xbox has all these amazing, live service MMOs, like these games that have lasted the test of time. Your Minecrafts, like whether it's bought, paid for, whatever you want to say, they have them now. It's theirs, and they don't need to fight in the Twitter spaces to say, well, this is the game that is beyond God of War Ragnarok. It's because you got the content creators on the YouTubes, on the Twitter spheres, spewing that whether they need it or not, rather than saying, actually, if we take a look at this different picture, they're both doing two very different things, and they're both doing really good job at those two things. And they also, thanks, go to hell, Luke.
This is why you're the leader of the vault. You're doing such a good. Keep going.
Okay, fine.
Overseer, Joe for overseer.
Yeah, Joe for overseer. Let's go.
For him.
Oh no!
Vote twice. But yeah, so that's what we kind of need to rephrase the conversation as to, like, it's not about the boxes anymore. It's never even really been about the boxes for the last.
Remember that
10
world
years
exclusive news he said on our podcast, Chipotle Bear?
What's
It's
that?
not about the new.
It's not about the what?
Wait, this Joe, you tried. I tried.
I
It's
was
not your
saying
fault.
the
They
world
can't all land.
premiere.
Okay.
Oh,
Remember when
Exclusive world premiere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe said on our podcast, it's not about the box anymore.
you said that like a year ago.
Yeah, but like it really isn't. And I think these numbers or the catalog of games that we just talked about that are lasting again 5-6+ years, it's still making money for Microsoft. Goes to show that like this old narrative has been needing to die for a while now, of like, it's about the boxes. It's really about, no, it's not. It's about them making sure that they have a quality of life, those quality of life improvements to the platform that make it appealing for those ecosystems to, coexist with each other. That's all it is. That's my rant. Okay, I'm gonna go, guys. Have a nice one. It's been great.
Yeah. No, it was a good statement, Joe, and I agree. That is why you're overseer. But
Thank you. I'll be right back. I need to pee, you guys. I'm sorry.
yeah, do it.
All right,
Yeah,
see you later.
go for it.
I got a small bladder.
Big old
Wash your hands, bud.
All right.
10 seconds. You say happy birthday, happy birthday.
So now that he's got his headphones off, he does look like that guy, right? Like that's not just me. Right? If I'm the Fallout Boy, that is totally.
I hadn't seen it, but I see it now, Luke.
You
I
see
do.
it now. Yeah, it's crazy. But I think the box being gone is fine, and the blockbusters are less important than they've ever been, given that Xbox can now exist in so many places with so many brands. I just want them to put the logo in front of it, to go back to our previous.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
I
fair.
The logo in front of
I
you.
agree.
People need to know that
Yeah,
Xbox is doing it.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing, Luke, just worded slightly different in that the definition of a blockbuster today is different than it was 10 years ago, right? The definition of a blockbuster today is that game that will last 5-10 years and make money year over year
Mhm.
versus a big single release that'll just sell 10 million copies.
Mhm.
Even though those are still great, there's nothing wrong with those. But if it's not clear to you and everyone listening by now that all of the publishers and all of the kind of developers are thinking about how they make a game, not all developers, but most of how they make a game that has a residual income, right? Or an ongoing income. Yeah, it's just the state of the industry.
Agreed. Ellery Woods Parker III, who, by the way, did a fantastic, it was their first video review for XEP, their first effort in creating a video review. I thought they did a fantastic job. I would encourage all of you to go check it out. It's on The Outer Terror, which is a really unique kind of Brotato Vampire Survivors type game. It was really cool to see them put it together, and I really want to plug that. So please go check out their review. It's on the XEP channel. They're doing another one for us, working on Ready, Steady, Ship. Ellery is excellent when it comes to indie games. Please go check that out. Ellery asks, does anyone think that Xbox should give an early access option for Xbox for Call of Duty? If not, what do you think Xbox will or should do with their multi-plat titles to promote the Xbox platform? Ains, I know you have thoughts on this and are likely going to be informed a bit by recently just playing an early access title in No Rest for the Wicked, which is an interesting conversation. And easier to have, I think, early access in a PC space than a console space. Usually, because the expectations are a little bit different of the audiences. So, Ains, would you mind tackling this question first, and then the rest of us jump in?
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to talk about No Rest for the Wicked, right? No,
okay. We're going to talk about Ellery's question.
I'm in,
but we do want to hear about No Rest for the Wicked. I will say I do.
I could talk all day about it. No, I don't think they will give an early access option for Xbox only. If they do an early access option, it'll be for all platforms. What should they do with their multi-plat titles to promote the Xbox platform? Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying, right? I think they got to find a way to do that. I think it's going to primarily be marketing. I know Hoag's talked about this, and I obviously am no expert in the space, so take it with a grain of salt. But I believe, if I recall correctly, because we've had this conversation on Bigcast, and I believe that because of the acquisition and some of the contingencies that were put in place for the acquisition to get approval, that Microsoft then, or Xbox then coming out and saying you can get Call of Duty early on Xbox, but not PlayStation would be dangerous territory. Legally. And I don't think they're going to do that. I think that you may eventually see things like Game Pass perks, right? Maybe you kind of incentivize people on the Xbox platform to give them small little things for Call of Duty. But I mean, Phil Spencer is
yet. Unless it's
it hasn't happened yet.
Marketing,
but I think
it should have already happened, I think.
Well, keep in mind that until through 2023, PlayStation still had the marketing to Call of Duty.
Fair.
So we'll see what happens with this year and going forward. But I think that they have to be very careful with what they do here. And what I was going to say is keep in mind that Phil has spoken to this directly. Now, not to say he couldn't have just been talking at the time and will change his mind, but he said very clearly that they want uniformity across platforms for their major IPs, specifically calling out Call of Duty. So plus, the last thing I'll say on it before you guys jump in is that you also don't rock your golden dragon, right? Call of Duty on PlayStation is a multi-billion-dollar IP and franchise. You don't go messing around with that when you just spent $70 billion, right? Like you don't mess with one of your biggest sources of income now.
No, and you don't spend $1 billion to put things on your competitor's platform.
Don't start with that.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Yeah, Joey. So remember, what was that? 18 months ago, we were talking constantly, and people kept saying it. I said, "This is a really stupid comment." Yeah. So what happened to that? All the people who said that you don't put those games on other platforms.
They changed their mind.
Yes, they changed their mind because they didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah. Shit.
Sorry, that was a different topic.
They gave him a code for Stellar Blade. What's wrong with this world is what I say.
I agree. I'm of the opinion I don't like the idea of early access. Like, just let people play the game. Now, to be fair, I am with Ains on the PC with No Rest for the Wicked. I got to play like half an hour last night. I'm absolutely loving it. But I'm doing that under the understanding of like, I'm really actually just helping the developer. Like, yes, I get to play the game, but I'm anticipating bugs, I'm anticipating errors, and I have no intention of like calling that stuff out, especially on our platform, like just to complain, because it's like, look, man, we're trying to make this the best it can be at its 1.0 launch. So help us out if you want to play great. Like, I'm all in for that interaction. I don't think that Call of Duty is a good idea, even if the legal stuff didn't exist, even if that wasn't part of the contract. Ains is absolutely right. Like, they make billions of dollars from Call of Duty, and the last thing you want to do is alienate people and give them a reason to go over to Fortnite or some other platform instead to spend their money. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a terrible idea, honestly, financially.
Early access makes sense for the games that are coming to your platform. So like Valheim is an example. No Rest for the Wicked, great example too.
Baldur's Gate 3, the biggest,
Baldur's Gate 3, yep. Again, something we echoed on this week's show, if you remember, but like it's now about, for these platforms, the quality of life things that make them compete with Steam. Because Steam is hugely successful. And one thing that I heard on the show floor of PAX East was from all these indies, they're putting all their games on early access because it helps them monetarily multiple times before that game's actual release, and gives them free press, it gives them word of mouth. So like all those things are very detrimental to their success. And I do think, places like PlayStation miss out on a Power World because their ecosystems are too closed, whereas like something like an Xbox gets to capitalize on that. So maybe there are some games that you make, maybe they're the smaller, like your Groundeds, for example, are probably a great example of like an early access game that is, with the support of the community, built upon until you get this yoked edition. Yeah, that's definitely something. But like for Call of Duty, nah, you don't need any of that.
And I think, sorry, Joe, I was going to say, I think maybe what Ellery Woods meant is maybe like a 3-day early access, like we see with some Ultimate Edition type stuff.
Yeah.
For Call of Duty. So if you play on Xbox, you get it earlier than someone on PlayStation. But I think that's where you start to get into trouble. I don't think we see it.
I wouldn't mind I liked the $30 upgrade from like Game Pass Edition to
I like that. Yes, me too.
I really liked that. And in terms of Call of Duty, they do something for their
Forza Horizon did that.
Could you do that for the campaign, Luke? Like that's what I was thinking. Just
campaign
early access to the campaign, not multiplayer.
You could, and I think you could also do something with Black Cell in there. If anyone's
special skins.
Yeah, the Black Cell Battle Pass is one that you can only purchase with money, whereas if you have COD points, which you accumulate through a standard battle pass, you can buy your next battle pass, right? That's a pretty common thing to keep people in an ecosystem. But diehard fans, or those that are really into cosmetics or like the blueprints, like myself, I've gotten Black Cell the last 3-4 times in a row. If you did a $30 upgrade, in future for Activision Blizzard stuff, Call of Duty specifically, and you get Black Cell, you're doing that together, and maybe that's your 3-day early access. But they definitely need to make use of the Xbox brand and linking with Call of Duty. And as someone who enjoys Call of Duty Mobile and Warzone Mobile, which for some reason are not the same thing, they should have found a way fix it. They should have found a way to let us see Master Chief armor, or Doomslayer armor, or Fallout armor, or Gears of War armor in these cross-pollination brands where you've got these yoked up dudes in armor. Why are we not seeing that show up in other places? They really need to find a way to make that happen. You're telling me a Brotherhood of Steel armor wouldn't look great in Call of Duty? Drop it.
They did Warhammer, right? That's on the store right now. So
Warhammer
in there.
And Luke. It looks great.
Yeah.
Dune looks great. Dune, not Doom, looks great. They have Doom weapons in Call of Duty, but finding a way to cross-pollinate their brands into each other is useful. How beautiful. Does anyone remember how gorgeous the Halo armors were in Gears 5? The two members of the
those
team?
were sick. Yeah.
They were wonderful. And it's like, oh my, yeah. And like, can I get Noble 1? Where's Carter? Like,
but you know why, Luke? You know why that's not happening? Because it's like another 40 gig update that we're gonna have to download, and nobody wants the skins.
Dude, I literally uninstalled Call of Duty on my Xbox the other day. It was like 260 gigs freed up. I was like, holy crap!
There goes his internet cap.
Data caps exist. Am I right, gentlemen? Actually,
yeah, it's wild how much the sizes are, and that's something I hope Xbox addresses, because they did address it with Sea of Thieves. If you remember, they scaled down the size of that because it got bloated.
They just did for Forza too.
They did it for Forza?
Not Horizon. Motorsport just shrunk too.
They do need to find ways to do that with their biggest. And I would hope. I'm sure, but we know what assumptions do. Hey, Dakato in chat. Good to see Dakato and Silkenet as well. Join in the chat with Split End and Cheese and so many other awesome people. That's something that you assume is happening, and I'm cautious of that. But one of the pillars of Xbox does seem to be the user experience. What?
Bloat, gold.
That was a good addition.
It's from Season Gaming. Sorry, just don't worry about it. Sorry, Luke. Sorry to off this. But I have a question for you, Luke.
Go ahead.
Split End said this. They're already doing campaign early access. Yeah, I did forget about that. But what we're saying is, as a perk of being an Xbox, and as much as Ty Guy Travis hates it, an even earlier access period, that which Hogue will argue is just philosophically different. The whole release date argument isn't really a release date when you're just getting it earlier, blah, blah, blah. But I was going to say, Do you think they're going to do something, Luke, for Call of Duty? They like at all with campaign and then he also said the beta is going to be exclusive to Xbox now, right? Like early access beta. Whereas it's PlayStation, it's always been first to this. You would think, right? Or is Ain saying, no, we're all going to go at the same time from now on?
I think we're all going at the same time.
I don't know, but I
don't know if
think
the
it's
contract
a dangerous line. Yeah.
Really? Why?
Because there was a lot of legality that came with him promising not to give PlayStation lesser experiences, and you don't want to open up for more combative legislative stuff or legal stuff, I should say.
But a beta?
But I'm not arguing. I don't know better. I don't know better, right? Like that's a Hogue question. If he even knows, right? Like, I mean, I know sometimes he shoots from the hip and he's got the background for it. But what I think is your incentives for Xbox should not be timing. It shouldn't be the ability to get in at the same time, because that is, I think it opens yourself up. But you could do perks where you get a skin, perks where you get cosmetics. Cosmetics rule the world in multiplayer gaming.
What if the perk is just...
If you do it, sorry, Wally, if you do it through Game Pass, then you can say, well, the user's paying for that because Game Pass is paid, right? So they've paid for that. Whereas if you just say, as an Xbox player, you get X, whereas PlayStation and PC don't, I think that's where you start to run into trouble.
What if the simple answer is that it's just coming to Game Pass? That's the only perk that you're getting with it.
Maybe there's some line there. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I don't know.
No, I mean, like, what if the perk in general for being an Xbox player is that you're just getting Call of Duty and Game Pass, and that's it? Like, there's no other.
Oh, I see what you mean. I think that's still a great perk. I mean, you're getting a $70 campaign for free because you can't buy the. You guys are the Call of Duty guys. I don't know, but you can't buy the campaign standalone, right? Like you're buying the $70 package. So if you get the campaign, as crappy as it probably is,
that was a
Game
fun
Pass,
campaign.
They're always fun.
They're fun.
Then that's still a pretty good bonus, I think.
You don't go watch Fast and Furious and say the plot let me down. Like, what are you talking about?
I do.
Ains does all the time.
Why do you go watch it then?
I don't. This is the point.
You just say, okay.
I was surprised Ains brought up like a comic book reference. That's how bland this man is.
Yeah. Black pepper is too spicy.
Black pepper is too spicy. What?
I do want to give a shout out to Silken. He says, Luke, don't hesitate to at everyone on the Discord at the start of the show. I totally didn't see the time. The time is 12 p.m. EST, 9 a.m. PST. From here on out, that's the goal for our live shows. I am hesitant. This is me asking for feedback from our audience, audio, live, wherever. I don't know how to divide or what the right amount of division is between sending stuff via Patreon, Discord, socials, without overwhelming those that are interested. So keep that feedback.
Are your patrons on your Discord?
They have access to it. Everybody, if you are a paid member of our patronage or YouTube channel, you get into our Discord. That's how we keep people from coming in negative. So even at the lowest tier, you're able to get in. So I just worry about overloading everybody's feeds. So that's kind of.
I would say just do it on your Discord, but I suck at marketing, so don't ask me.
Gotcha. And listeners in the live chat, please drop your questions into the chat, and we will answer them as we go.
Luke, I have a question. How do you define hate mail? Because earlier this week,
whoa, that's right,
to Joe. And he on his show called it hate mail because I sent him a pack of stickers.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out.
I totally forgot about this. Why did we not bring this?
By the way, thank you guys for that. That was really cool. My wife's like, you got a card? Like, from who? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea who sent me a card. And then I saw Jose and I'm like, what's Jose sending me? And yeah, that was a good surprise. Thank you.
To be fair, it was from January because it was from when we did our fantasy draft. That's what I meant to send it out. And it just
did I get a card?
Yeah, I sent you when I sent Logan. I would have sent Logan.
No, we don't check our mail, so it's probably done. I'll have to go check.
We got hate mail.
It takes a while for mail to get to the shelter.
Shout out to Joe for being the only one
gets a little late.
Who actually opened it and acknowledged it. Shout out to Joe and Kyle, the PlayStation guys.
Yeah. And Kyle might as well be on your team. He picked.
I acknowledged it. I sent Jose a DM.
Yeah,
I'm just
Well, let me take over this show for just a minute. Kyle picked Howard Halibut, and I told him not to. I go, no, dude, just because it's claymation and it was at Skydance Film Festival doesn't mean it's going to be a good game. He's like, but Joe, the Gromit movies, oh, it's claymation, it's different. I'm like, it's been 10 years, Kyle, since the development of that game, okay? I used to be skinny 10 years ago. What happened?
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. So like, a bit, Luke, Jesus Christ. So like, it's just Ains had hair 10 years ago. Thank you. So can I read this hate mail for a second?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
He said, all right, this is how, first off, Xbox card on a PlayStation show. Come on.
You should have made it blue.
Exactly. Make it blue.
I literally made that card, handmade it.
They said, thanks for joining this year's draft and being awesome, being an awesome person. Keep up the great work and we'll # see you online. How passive aggressive, right? You know where this goes? Garbage.
That does beg the question. Side note, please give us some video game questions. When someone gives you a card, how long till you can throw it away?
Depends on the card.
Like, come on. Like, people are like, here, happy anniversary. I'm like, thank you.
It's like a week.
Like a week, you think?
Yeah.
A week's about right.
Yeah.
I don't need that. But like, my wife is like, oh no, it's very sweet. My wife will read the card before she looks at the check or looks at the money. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Come on.
I do that.
Do you?
Luke.
It's my aunt.
Oh, I didn't even
We were raised with manners, Luke.
Yes.
For God's sakes.
I was raised with
see
manners.
the cash.
I
Oh,
know
there's
that
the
I'm
cash
supposed
there.
to.
East Coast attitude.
No,
I know.
I get it, but also like, you're not gonna obviously acknowledge the giant like $50 or $100 bill there. You're supposed to move it out of the way.
Right.
Of course, it's the first thing I see.
Is this a part of the card? I don't know.
You look at the money first, and you look at the denomination of the money, and you're like, whoa, thank you. And then you read it.
This is the East Coast mentality, boys.
The denomination of the money determines how much you like the card.
You know what?
That
when Ains wipes his ass with $20 bills every day.
I grew up outside of Philly for like 30 years, but whatever.
Ains has a butler for his butler, all right, and he gets to tell us, so money, okay. Anyway,
like
50. What the hell's that?
For the record, Jam Pack Sam correctly pointing out, if it's a card from your grandma, you save it. I'm with you on that. But like, if it's from Joe Schmo, whatever. Like the denomination of the money that you clearly have to move out of the way to read the card determines how invested in the card you are.
More importantly, how are you getting money from people that aren't your family? How do you do that?
Well, that's TikTok, what I was expecting in this card.
I was expecting a PlayStation Network card.
I was expecting a service fee for appearing on their show, and
you just got it
today.
Do you know what postage costs?
Get stickers, man. That's about what you're worth.
I mailed
at least $10.
I mailed my Backbone 1 to Sabaritos, a patron of the show, and I like realized I mailed it. I didn't even put like a sticky note of like "Have a good day." I didn't even do that. I was just like, here's the thing. Like there was no money exchange. Like it was fine, but like I should have done that. I was like, oh, I'm not personal enough. Whatever. Here you go. Enjoy that. So I do what I can. But so it goes. Guys, Ken, A Bridge of Spirits is coming to Xbox. I love when games that were locked on one platform go to another. Really excited to see that the Apple Arcade locked TMNT Splintered Fate is going to Switch and then later consoles. I love when that stuff happens. I do not like when a game that is not first party is exclusive. And we just spent, an hour and a half talking about how exclusives are kind of dying anyway. But when a game is not made by a first party or published by a first party and it's exclusive, I really don't like that at all.
Like Final Fantasy VII remake. Man.
And we talked on last XCP, I want to say, maybe it was a different show, about like what the sales were for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because they weren't that high.
It was only players, right, Joe? Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know, but like we can make it, like we can assume it's not.
Yeah, what's his name? Who's the really well-known analyst out of China?
Like actor?
Dana Mod, right?
Daniel Ahmad works for a different company.
He works for
I know one of them. One of the actual analysts said that they're tracking sales at 50% of remake.
Yeah.
Now remake sold well, so I don't know what that means generally speaking, but that doesn't sound good, you know. for if you're
Yeah.
Square.
One person actually on our YouTube comments, it was actually an insightful comment and not threatening one. It was a change. And they made a good point. It's like, well, 60% of people actually beat Final Fantasy VII Remake. So
That's higher than I would have thought.
yeah. So I mean, it's also during the COVID pandemic. So a lot of factors go into play on that one. But yeah, no, I'd like to see it come on Xbox one day too. Make you guys happy.
Why not?
Yeah.
Like why not?
Make the
It
money.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why they are not, unless the development cost is that high. And I don't see a world where it is, because they're all developed for PC first. I don't know jack all about development, but what I'm saying is it doesn't lend itself to it. And then you have, quite separately, Christopher Dring from GamesIndustry.biz a few weeks ago saying that when he was talking to people at GDC, they were wondering why they even put their games on Xbox. And that is a valid concern also. So I'm curious, kind of, it took Kenna Bridge of Spirits, if all the ESRB ratings come to fruition, what, 2-3 years to make it over? It took Splintered Fate a year to get out of Apple Arcade lockdown. Square Enix is having to make some choices now, good or bad. It's all about return of investment, right?
Of course. Isn't Ember Lab a really small team though?
They are. They're like a dozen folks. Last time I checked.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think there, Luke, is that whereas I think it's maybe a little disingenuous for some developers like Square to say that, this is a tough cross development to put it on Xbox, right? I think that's disingenuous. But for a small independent studio, maybe like Ember Lab, I tend to maybe agree, understand a little better where it's like, hey, it took us some time, guys. We could only make it for one platform at once.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I just want to see, and Xbox now commands so many high profile franchises. They command weight in an industry where maybe 5 years ago they couldn't swing that weight around. Let's see some of that weight being put to use, right? Like sometimes it feels from the outside looking in, we don't know what those boardrooms look like. We don't know what the C-suite looks like. But it feels like they're too nice sometimes. Feels like they're too friendly. No,
feels like it.
It does feel like that. Like, it's not just me.
No, it does. Yeah, I don't know how real it is, but you get that feeling, at least in our echo chamber.
Yeah, I want them to swing that weight around, get Square Enix to move for Xbox in a way that they haven't prior.
But what do they do, right? Like, so it's weird because I agree with you, and then as I agree with you, I think about what that would mean, and it's like, what can Xbox do outside of just backing up the truck of money, right? Which they do occasionally, which it feels like PlayStation does as well. And they have the much stronger relationship with Square and some of those Japanese companies, right, in particular. But outside of that, what can they do? Well, if you don't bring us Final Fantasy 16 Rebirth and Remake, then we're not going to let your other games on the platform. And it's like, Square's gonna be like, okay. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have they are the biggest company in the world. They are the biggest publisher in the console space now, right? And they certainly have the money. But what, outside of just backing the truck up, what do you actually do to use that weight? You don't really have the weight that's usable.
Yeah, because it would just hurt players. It wouldn't hurt anyone else but the players.
Yeah, because they're going to release it on PC anyway. They don't need you for PC. The only thing you can offer is the Xbox console.
And I suppose their only engine familiarities come from Unreal, because his coalition is regularly hired out to help other developers work with Unreal Engine. Is that true? That's what I understand.
I think from an Unreal Engine standpoint, Xbox is the experts. Yeah, like the people under Xbox for sure.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, I don't know how. I just don't know how that works. I mean, none of us do really. But I'm just trying to think about how that would actually work in reality. And if I'm Phil walking into the new CEO of Square Enix, what do you even say? Outside of PlayStation's giving you 20 million, I'll give you 30. Like,
yeah,
I
think the argument is like, hey, listen, I think a lot of Japanese publishers who aren't Capcom are looking for more of an audience. As we're seeing with like Final Fantasy, they're just not hitting the way they used to. So it's just like, hey, there's another audience here. Yeah, sure, it's half the size of PlayStation, but it's still close to 30 million, boxes right here.
That's probably fair.
You. And then they go, and we'll subsidize some of the costs for you. And I think that's probably what they did for Sega with Persona. So whatever gets people to change their tune of like, hey, no, actually Xbox Game Pass has, you know, JRPGs and Western RPGs and first person, like, you know, as long as it covers that spectrum for them, I think they'll more than happily drop a truckload of money just to
Yeah.
change that narrative that, like, you know, Microsoft doesn't care about, you know, anything that's not Bethesda or whatever.
They've done a good job with Sega and Atlas, to your
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And Sega considers them a very strong partner. So,
And even Square to a certain extent with Final Fantasy 14 and their new partnership.
Great to
and
see that
everything
come
like
over.
that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it has to be some sort of deal with PlayStation that these games are
Money's
clearly not
definitely
coming over.
yeah, no, money's
I think that was leaked in the court documents, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was, and I think once they're able to comfortably integrate Activision titles into Game Pass, because we already know Game Pass is changing. The buckets of money to get your game on Game Pass are not happening for the smaller developers like they once were. It sounds like, from what I understand anecdotally and interviewing developers and such, Game Pass itself is being more stingy. Once Activision Blizzard titles are in there, then you've got a healthy pantheon of Xbox titles, a healthy pantheon of Bethesda titles, a healthy pantheon of Activision Blizzard titles. Game Pass is the place to be for a lot of different types of gamers. If they can up their Game Pass subscription rates by marketing properly that Game Pass, this is if you like RPGs, whether it's JRPG, whether it's Western RPG, whether it's ARPG, we've got you. And they can market. You like shooters? We've got Call of Duty in Game Pass, all of them or whatever. All the Black Ops are there or whatnot. If you can get people into Game Pass, maybe it's Game Pass that is your selling point. We thought Game Pass was the future 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I still think in some ways it is, but it didn't do what I thought it would do, right? Like the numbers stagnated around that 35 million mark. If maybe Game Pass is changed by Activision Blizzard's arrival into its collection, maybe backing the Game Pass truck up will put you in Game Pass. Whereas maybe they weren't doing that before, or they had to pay to get somebody into Game Pass. We saw, what was it, conversations about Outriders a year or two ago, putting Outriders in versus another title. That makes a difference. And then I look at Immortals of Avium, who's furloughing people and trying desperately to keep their studio alive after making a good game, and PlayStation Plus couldn't save it. EA's version of Game Pass, EA Play, didn't save it. I'm just curious if Game Pass is maybe a way to motivate Square Enix to get involved.
I mean, maybe, but what I hope
Drop that
doesn't.
money in front of them, yeah.
I mean, maybe, but I don't want to have happen is I don't want tiers of Game Pass beyond what we have now. Like that's my fear a little bit is you start doing this. Like we don't want to raise the price for everyone because that people will leave. It's just not strong enough yet. And so we do like a tiered system. And I'm not knocking PlayStation, but as an example, like they have the 3-tiered system and they say like only at the highest tier do you get the Activision Blizzards.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like I don't want that. I want it to maintain like, it's not about necessarily the studios because that's not how the general public sees it. They don't see it as like, ooh, I've got Bethesda and ooh, I've got all these games here. They see it as what their style of gaming is. Do you have first-person shooters? Do you have the RPGs? Do you have kids games, right? If you're buying it for children. And so like that's my only fear if they really try to like level or leverage Game Passes that change. It could still be, it's still my favorite. Like I have no problem spending that money every month, even though I mostly play on PC because of PC Game Pass and stuff too. But like I still think that they have to be careful with that.
Great.
Go ahead.
He said,
No, I
you said
was just saying
agreed.
I
I'm
agree.
sorry.
I think it's a good comment.
Use your ears, Luke. Jeez.
Split End 89 asked the question: Is there a point when it's not worth putting your game on Xbox on Game Pass because there are too many other games I'd be competing with for attention? I think the answer to that is absolutely yes, and it's very game dependent. It's very game dependent. Like, what are we talking about? Are you talking about a game that's going to compete with Diablo 4? Or are you talking about a game that's competing with the back compat titles of Call of Duty? Right? Like, I think that is kind of the difference there. True of any game in any ecosystem, you have to have something that makes your game stand out. And it standing out in Game Pass, where they've worked really hard to curate, is its own difficulty. Does anyone else have a thought on Split End's comment?
So is there a point when it's not worth putting your game on Game Pass? I mean, if the bag isn't big enough, right? I think Game Pass, from what we've talked about, is a very curated list of games. So I bet like there's a lot of people who want to be on Game Pass but aren't, because again, like Xbox isn't willing to drop the bag on that as they are, to Silksong, or like for PlayStation Plus this week, Tales of Kanzara and Dave the Diver, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if the bag's not big enough, you probably want to take a step back. But at the same exact time, if you're a small team, you're thinking, okay, well, Xbox is giving me this amount of money just for us to put the game on the platform. That entitles us to some type of safety net if this game doesn't do well, or the whole development's probably paid off for us, or most of it, or some of it, whatever the case is. And then we can go on the Nintendo Switch, Steam, PlayStation, and make that money there. So there's a lot of like factors that come into it, but none of it's like, I'm not gonna put my game on Game Pass. Nah, I'm good. I'll pass on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Oh,
Go ahead, Ains. No, go ahead.
No, go, Wally.
I was just gonna say, I remember asking a similar question to Logan when we had him on our show, Luke, about are there just too many games in general on Game Pass? And he was saying, no, you want to have as much available because you just want to appeal to as many players as you can. So, I mean, like Joe said, if the money's good, is it really a losing situation to be on Game Pass? I don't think so. I think the more eyes on your product, the better. But
at the same exact time, you don't want your subscription service to be overly bloated like a Netflix, where you have a ton of like shitty.
That's kind of what I was saying too, Joe. Is
reality TV shows. Like you don't want the.
Well, I mean,
Dan loves those shows.
You're not watching Bravo TV all the time. You're not
No.
watching Vanderpump and Summer House, and
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The Valley and
I'm not.
I can keep going here, guys.
No, I'm not married.
No, we'll talk offline, Wally. We'll talk offline.
Confuse me
like you want. I doubt that they want like a list of like thousands of games.
No, I agree.
I think when we talked about Game Pass a couple years ago when it started to expand, we knew this would be the conversation, right? Because they've talked about this, right? Curation is really tough once you start to get to a place where there's more content than people can consume on a weekly or monthly basis. I think Game Pass, I think they do a pretty good job of that today with like announcing their releases. They stagger them, right? Some leave, some new ones come in, and they announce kind of the big ones that are coming and when they're coming. And even when they have like 2 weeks of releases, they're not on the same day. You know what I mean? Like there's one Monday, then there's one Wednesday, then there's one Friday. And I think they do a pretty good job of that, way better than say Steam, where it's just like it's like thousands of games every day. Yeah. But I do at the same time, one of you said that there's just so many games. I mean, there's like 10 games I want to be playing right now, and we just can't do it. And I think that both combined with how big the industry is now, especially for people like us who play on all platforms, combined with the live service element, because I get on Bigcast every week, and Travis and Hogue have played like 6 new games.
Yeah, it's insane, dude.
Yeah, but they don't play any live service stuff. Generally, like compete, you know what I mean? And I play with Wally, I play these guys, like I play Halo every week, I play Pub every week, like that's several to dozens of
finals on that too. You heard it here, you guys. I'm not the only one still playing PUBG in 2020.
No, PUBG or Call of Duty or finals or any Sea of Thieves, like any of those games that you just are invested in the community, right? Like that's part of what you're playing every week. Like you only have so much time. So it's just that is a factor in the conversation, and how they balance that is really tough, I'm sure.
And just think about that. Like when your game's on that platform, you're highlighted. Like this is here's the handful of games coming out in the month of April, and your game's right there, front and center. That's a big deal.
And we've seen the data and heard from developers that like Game Pass has helped them. Like we've heard that time and time over again. You know what I mean? So like
I don't know about that.
I've had him on my show. I mean, the Everspace dev was very vocal about how PlayStation gamers benefited from him being on Game Pass because he got to work on it and use the money from Game Pass to pay people to work on things longer. That we hear that a lot in the interview space anyway. And I think interviews are, this is a little self-serving, but they're less watched than these conversations, which surprises me. But it's true. At least in my anecdotal evidence, I feel like people are more interested in panel conversations versus interviews with developers. But I've heard that consistently. So I do want to give a shout out to Addy Zero, I'm so appreciative of you dropping a $5 super chat saying after 10 years of planning Uncle Phil's plan came together. What was it, like a week or two ago? People were like, Phil Spencer should be let go. And
Dude, where was that coming from?
That was weird.
Like, that was
Yeah,
so
it
odd.
really was. Like, do you have any idea? Well, no. The answer is no. The answer is no. They don't have any idea of like what that man has accomplished in 10 years and how difficult that is to work in that environment. Like, it drives me nuts.
He navigated Xbox through its most tumultuous time, got out better iterations of the Xbox One hardware, better iterations of the controller, got out a subscription service, put Xbox games on PC like 8-9 years ahead of when PlayStation was doing it, got out Series S and X hardware, which I maintain is incredible hardware, and has allowed
what he's
Xbox
accomplished is nuts.
It's
nuts.
I mean,
absurd.
leading him through the pandemic alone, you guys, just like another hero of ours.
Oh wow.
Oh my god.
Gotta give.
I don't want to ask where he was.
You know whose favorite hero that is? That's
Do you have a
this
cat
guy's
sticker?
favorite hero. That's this guy's favorite
Very
hero.
nice.
He loves it. He loves it.
Very nice. Yeah, we're gonna take it back.
Addy,
Sometimes the
thank you for
Xbox
super chat.
community.
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat.
I need that.
Sometimes the Xbox community does remind me of the Shane Gillis like meme of him putting a gun in his mouth and everybody's like, no, wait. And then he like, takes it out and he points at everybody else. Like, that's what it kind of reminds me of, man. It's incredibly bipolar. Like, listen.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
They flip on you in a day.
Not even. It's like 1 minute. It's like Phil Spencer. You guys don't understand. Phil Spencer saved not just Xbox, but my marriage.
But the world.
Like,
he delivered my baby.
Then a Redfall comes out. We need to talk about where this man's next job
Phil
is.
has driven this company to the ground.
Exactly.
Like,
by the way, I can't.
Oh my gosh, Addy coming in as a YouTube channel member. Let's go. Thank you, sir. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Absolutely appreciate you. Thank you.
Patreon.com/PS Trophy Room.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Thank you so much, Addy Zero. I appreciate you to the nth degree. Thank you. Redfall.
There's a kid behind you, Jose.
That's my wife. That's not a kid.
Oh, that's whoops. Thought that was a small child. Are you on an island, Jose? Are you on an island?
Are you accusing him of something?
I just want to know.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
No. No, it's fine.
We turned into cast co-op for a second.
I added you, Addy Zero, with another super chat. Goodness gracious! I added you in on the ticker below. Thank you so much. Anybody that watches the Nerd Chat, which I'll strongly recommend you guys to watch the Nerd Chat. Dan is regularly attacked by his children, and it always seems to happen when Jose is talking. And the patience of that man, because Jose will be making this very sentient point that's brilliant, and then he'll just go.
You know what? It's just goes from education, Luke. That's what it is. He's like,
I know.
Exactly
I'm with you. I know exactly what it is. Yep.
Wait time.
Look at that. A
shout
super
out.
sticker from Split End 89. $2 super sticker. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
guys
Split
are
End.
amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
You guys
thank
are really
guys.
gonna help pay for my appearance fee. So thank you so much.
He hasn't gotten to mine yet. We're getting there.
We're getting.
Hey, somebody asked me just while we're plugging in the warm and fuzzies. Last night I was talking to my Warzone crew. We got a dub last night. It's cool. And I was really hopeful that Ains would be able to be on the show. And Kevin Butler, which is one of my buddies, because we like you, because you're our friend.
No,
and
I
we
don't
all
believe
enjoy
it.
your presence.
Why is old
Your
dog?
friend.
No, that's not true.
You got to respect the elders, and so I wanted to pay my respect. So
I'm gonna send you a card. You better save it.
XEP, yeah, I will for you. XEP literally wouldn't have happened because you got me this computer when mine was dying at a price I could afford, teacher salary wise, and I was just appreciative of you. And so I just wanted to say that here in this video live format. I appreciate you. So yeah.
Speaking of appearance fees, we actually paid Luke today to
Yeah, I was
be
like,
on
you're
the
getting
show.
paid?
Yeah, we paid him to appear today. So I'm glad you guys are getting paid for this.
Yeah. Little Caesars trash pizza for trash people.
That's right.
So when Redfall comes out and everybody's doom and gloom on Xbox, Phil Spencer's the worst. I think that's a really silly thing, particularly as we're all sitting here like less than a year after Redfall, praising Fallout as being this huge new pillar, and Fallout 76 was a disaster at launch. It just botched it big time, and Starfield not necessarily landing its launch. I would say it felt a little content.
That's
debatable.
If I may, the game still did well.
Yeah,
yes. Because there's someone yelling, "It's on the top 10 that year, and it's the first only IP, whatever." Don't worry, settle down. Park on the side, cool off. Don't let the road rage. Don't
go into the left lane.
Oh shit! Run a red. What's a stop sign but a suggestion? No, it sold well, but even wasn't there something of they expected it to be bigger?
Yes.
And so I just want to say Starfield did well. That's all.
It's got
also,
a lot, it's got a lot to enjoy.
Again,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and also I hate the top 10 or the MPD sales conversations with games that launch in Game Pass. You can't have that conversation. No. It's like when I see the users of this game is dead and they show a Steam chart. It's like, okay, you've looked at one aspect of 5 platforms.
Come on,
that's
based
not
on the Steam player account.
It's ridiculous.
All the time, it's dead. 90% of players left on Steam. Oh, it must mean it's still in the top 10 on most played on Starfield.
It's like, I'm doing this math equation, but I don't have 40% of the numbers. What do you?
Well, actually, I saw that the Reddit community is just so upset right now, and I'm gonna make an article about it.
They're upset about what? They're always upset.
They're just upset.
Okay.
The problem with a lot of those charts and numbers is they don't measure the same things for the same game. Starfield is a single player game. It is a single player game, and mods are not yet at their peak the way they are with something like a Elder Scrolls or even a Fallout, right? I think that there's a lot of building that Starfield's the foundation, and it's meant to be built upon. I think that's very evident in a number of the systems that existed in it. And Redfall, to its credit, has hunkered down, gotten real quiet, should have launched in early access, back to our previous conversation. But that 60 frames per second on console, that did look good. The particle effects did look better. The AI did get better. There were a lot of things that got better over time. I think it just launched too early. It just launched too early, as did Fallout 76. And I think that's kind of the ongoing issue.
The funny thing is, do you guys remember? Because I completely forgot until someone brought it up on Bigcast that Redfall has a expansion pass and a player pass.
Logan reminds me every other day.
Yeah,
he does. That's right. I just remember last week.
Yep.
I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
They're close. They're closer. They're doing well. Well, let me rephrase. The person I talked to who's working on Redfall, that he feels good about it.
Okay.
Cool.
Remember,
I was higher on Redfall than others. Sorry,
I was going to say, Ains, that our famous thumbnail would delay Redfall until the summer, and it had who was it? Jose?
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. And reaching out. We got to bring that up right now. But I was going to say, I think Ains, Luke, myself, even Jose too. He said we enjoyed what
I had a fun time.
There was something there.
I played it on PC at launch, so I didn't have the performance issues.
Yeah.
And then, it definitely has a good foundation. I haven't played it since the updates. I thought it was a decent game.
It just needed more time. I think we could all agree. It definitely needed more time, and I can't wait to see now having that time, having the expansion come when it launches on PS5. Joe is going to be going for that platinum trophy, and I can't wait for him to give it a better review on PlayStation.
You know what really hurt that game too is that, and I said this many times, that game, if you've played the whole game, I reviewed it, so I played the whole thing.
Yes,
it's distinctly split into two halves. Mm-hmm. There's a 40% first half and a 60% second half, and
they should have delayed it, you guys.
I didn't know what I was getting into by clicking that, by the way.
The second half of the game is actually stronger than the first half of the game, and the late game storytelling in that game is actually quite good. So it's like if they put it in if they keep working on it, I think eventually there's going to be a good game there.
I hope it, but I don't no, like, so here's the question. We go back
The
to that
nibble edition.
C-suite. Nibble. Yeah. We go back to that C-suite
good
Xbox
hashtag.
leadership.
Oh,
What are you saying?
The hashtag was no. You're right, Luke. They completely whiffed on this. And
Yeah.
didn't they kind of say that they admitted we should have gotten involved or way
Yes.
earlier on that? Yeah.
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 That was a.
So if you're the C-suite now, do you say, just go to Fallout, just go
Cut
to
your losses.
Do you cut your losses, or do you deliver on the bite back? The
Gotta
reason I
deliver.
ask, you've got a vampire somewhere in between, like, I don't know which, it's not in between Dishonored and something, but like there is something to Redfall. There really is something to it.
Kind of want
There's
play it on
something to it.
PC.
So like,
Dude,
do
I'm
you-
telling you, it's actually pretty fun to play. I'm not
It is
joking.
fun
It is fun to play.
like
The
it.
power and the shooting was
Absolutely.
a lot of fun, yeah. And
So-
co-op, especially, playing it with a friend. Me and Bacon played it the whole way through. We had a great time.
And you've got a big vampire game down the pipeline, Blade.
Yeah.
You know, like, do you cross promote? Like, what do you do if you're the C-suite? Because you've got this meal that doesn't
Dude,
match everything
make
else.
I got it.
Blade the second character that you can play as in Redfall.
Provided you don't get
It's
a
not gonna
Spider-Man and
happen.
Avengers thing, where it's like, ugh, this isn't good. Like,
You
know what I
deliver
mean?
on what you can, what you promised, and then you take that team and you put them somewhere else. You know. I also just want to address the toxicity in the XEP chat, which I shouldn't be surprised. They're saying things like, "We need to send Joe stickers of himself as the overseer of the Fallout show." All right, let's settle down there.
Split End 89 is now one of my favorite people. I don't
Yeah.
have we met Split End? Are you my best friend? I think you are.
Also, Split End, DM me because I think that's actually a fantastic idea. Make a
That
little
is a good
Discord emote, me go like,
That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
you know,
Level
also-
1 gaming in the chat. Shout
Let-
out.
what
Let's
up?
ask the panel. They say we're good. They say we're good.
Everyone like that.
You need a slogan though for like the poster you're gonna put on the wall, like "Don't be a hoe, vote for Joe."
Right.
Right?
There we go. There we
Shout
go.
out to
Is that
Split
level
End
one
as
game?
well- as well,
Yes.
Luke? He brought up
He says that anyway, Jose.
That's very
That-
true.
one of the bad things about Redfall. It had those random 12-point achievement scores.
Oh,
remember?
yes.
Oh gosh.
That's disrespectful to all.
Oh,
disrespectful
ban
to
those.
all.
Am I right, Ains? Like, you hate those random numbered achievements. You know how
I don't care at all.
I
don't care
truly,
either.
I've gotten past where
I
it
used
bothers
to
me as
care.
much.
I really did.
used-
I used to care.
I don't believe it.
somewhere along the way in the last year, I stopped caring, but I did find those very.
Oh,
offensive.
the worst.
It should be an approximation of 5.
Like a decade ago, I cared, but you know, I think I played, what was it, like Mad Max, and I got like a 1-point achievement. I'm like, what is this? Like, what is this? And then I didn't
Sunset
have a
Overdrive
0 for
had one
5,
too.
you know, and I got really mad. And then like over time, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's so cool to see level 1 gaming in there. Baron was on last week's episode. They do great stuff. I saw David Whitaker was on a really good panel last week as well, and I like level 1 gaming a lot.
I totally forgot that I met Split End literally at the Xbox show last year. I totally forgot. So
Oh, really?
good on him for calling it out. Yep, I forgot.
There you go.
My
You know
fault.
what? That happens as you age. Memory starts to go.
Dude?
Oh,
I
Don't
will
I know
meet
it?
you, look at you, you'll tell me your name, I'll shake your hand,
Yeah.
and
Oh, it's-
before we have turned around, I have forgotten your name.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that happens all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up, man?
Everybody's like, it's me. I'm like, remember, you guys are icons on a screen or like rectangles at best, you know?
It's
yeah.
it's funny because Ains was telling us, he's like, he voted 7 times in the last election. He only remembers 3 of them.
Yeah.
You know,
He picked up the phone in Georgia. Yeah.
that's right. I remember that.
Oh,
We need those
Fair.
I
votes.
just need to find
Yeah.
like an
I was in
11,000
Georgia,
followers.
Luke was in DC. You know, it was a combined effort.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh man. Let's see. Do we have any other questions in chat that we have not referenced today? Because I've been loving this episode.
No.
I don't want it to end.
I
but
think
I
we're
feel like
pretty
we
good.
kind of covered the bases here. All right. Well, guys, I think it's a good time to make fun of Baron a little bit just with level 1, especially because of the heinous things he did to me in last week's episode. I
I
thought
like
that
the
was
mask.
Dude, he honored you. What do you mean heinous? He was wearing your likeness and promoting you.
I will say, like, I know I'm supposed to be in on the joke and not like the Fallout Boy, but now that I like this show and I'm enjoying Fallout 4, I'm like,
Dude, now's the time to promote it.
You also
no
have that
doubt.
costume for Halloween, bud. you
Well,
and Joe together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even
Not
need
only
the
that-
mask. You just put the suit on, you're good to go.
Yeah.
I'll do
it. But Luke, how much is Bethesda paying you to be adoring fan and
That's the thing. Can I just get
Yeah,
one
he's in both
interview?
games.
Oh, what is
He's-
going on? How did
Yeah.
he get this?
That's the thing. I just want one interview. Like,
Yeah.
give me one, Bethesda. All right. I've been
He will dress up
asking.
as the Vault Boy if you give him the interview.
I've been in multiple games. They've not yet given me some love. I just feel like they need to acknowledge
yeah,
it.
we
Like,
gotta-
I'm here with. I've embraced the joke. Come
Haynes,
on.
you're in on Xbox. Get him an interview, all right?
I'll work on it. I do have that Fallout mask too, but it's buried with like 900 other things, so I couldn't find it.
Did you see the hesitation in Ains's his face? He's like, I'm not.
I'll
Doing
work
that.
on
I'm
it.
not going to burn that.
I'm not gonna burn that bread. I'm not wasting that one. Not on you.
That's not worth the effort.
Yep. All right. So, guys, as we are starting to exit out here, I want to take a moment to thank you all for joining me because this was an absolute pleasure. I really did enjoy the discussions. I want to thank the chat who was here. We saw so many of our friends roll through chat. We saw likes, we saw super chats, we saw channel memberships. Bottle caps did not quite make their way in this time, but we appreciate you. Baron here in the house. Baron, I love you. All the slander that was said was by Joe said it to you. Okay. Dan Daddy D Wally, would you please plug your socials and your show and let people know where to find you?
Yes, you can find me at Daddy D Wally across all social media. You can follow the Nerd Chat podcast across all social media. We're just a small show celebrating all things gaming, food, and the good old days. Chipotle Bear is also on the show along with X Bacon Gaming. But quick question, Luke. I needed to bring this up while we have everybody here. Joe, where do you stand on Halo Infinite? What would make you play? Do you think it needs a battle royale, more casual mode, or do you think it needs to stick with its more hardcore competitive gaming arena platform that Ames so
you know
deeply
I gotta
loves?
touch on this.
I know, Luke. I already brought it up. So, what do you think would make you play Halo Infinite more? As somebody who does love Halo but doesn't play it regularly, where do you fall? More
Needed
competitive?
a good campaign.
Get this. Oh, Ames.
No, it was good. It was just not like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing I've ever experienced. It was
I think
good.
the
It's very good.
Joe, the
I'm
big
okay.
debate.
If it was
we've
on
been having is-
PlayStation, it would have been his game of the year. You know what I mean?
Joe, the context here is I'm advocating for Halo to be successful in modern shooters. It needs to be a bit more casual and less hardcore arena based. And Ains is very against that.
No,
And
I'm
then
not against it. I'm against the
Ains
fact that you guys keep
freaking
saying
hates
that like
it.
it's true. Because the game is casual. Everything they've put into Infinite for 2 years now is for the casual audience.
Yep.
As
Infection,
it should be.
everything in Forge, all the
been there at
custom
launch,
stuff,
yes.
all the big team battle stuff, everything they've added. The Halo 3 playlist is all casual. The
it
ranked
should
and competitive playlist is dead.
Good.
Like
Let it die.
yeah, but you're making an invalid point then. Like everything they've added to Halo is
I'm
for the
currently
casual
trolling you.
audience.
I'm currently
I
saying,
know,
do
but
think
it's
Halo
just it
needs-
drives me nuts.
So casual to me also means brand cross promotion, but I advocate that on a number of levels. But Joe, I think the question you're being asked is: should Halo become even more casual to appeal to a wider audience, or does it lose itself?
royale.
Should it stay? And does it need a battle royale, or should it stay kind of where it's at?
I'm gonna stick with Ains on this one. Everybody's doing a goddamn battle royale. What I would really like to see, and I think it's like ever since Helldivers has come out, like let's see us like drop into a level and like fulfill some missions while like the Covenant try to hunt us down. Like,
I like that.
come
That's a
on,
cool
like
idea.
that's so it's made for Halo, you know?
Okay.
That'd be rad. Even if we're just little ODSTs and we're like collecting armor or whatever, like that's cool. I do think that it needs some sort of like a bit of a shakeup, right? But like nothing that is gonna. To me, all right, this is where I got the booze. What Halo needs is to be on more platforms. Come on, bring it
I was
over
just
to
going to say,
PlayStation.
put it
We're
on
gonna
PlayStation.
we're gonna support it.
Problem solved.
Someone who said that to me and thought I was going to get mad. Someone said that recently to me.
Yeah, I
Like, should
remember
they
that
put
answer.
Halo on
You're like-
PlayStation? And I was
You're
like,
yes, multiplayer.
No,
do it.
I agree. I agree.
I fully believe Halo Infinite multiplayer will be on Switch too. Like I fully believe that.
Good. Those guys will be easy
and
to
phones, dude.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I'm
Like
on Halo
easy,
Mobile.
easy work.
Just
But-
imagine the need to learn on a DualSense.
Oh god, what a
Ooh-wee.
disgusting controller.
Dual,
Am I
yeah,
right,
wait, a
boys?
shooter on a DualSense? No, I'm
just
good.
threw up
Um,
in my mouth.
Yeah, it's not good.
Okay.
Not good. It's a bad controller.
Okay.
um,
All right.
no, we've said this for so many years, guys. It's the same thing with Gears. When Gears comes out and the multiplayer doesn't land like Call of Duty, the
Yes,
same
yeah.
conversation is going to
Yeah,
happen.
you're right.
Gears and Halo mechanics and other shooters are different. They're not just pick it up and kill someone shooters like Call of Duty, like
Mhm.
Apex, like those games. They're not like that. That's a good thing. We don't,
Yeah.
everything
Mhm.
shouldn't look like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like,
But
you
is
know
that
what
a
I
good
mean?
thing
Like,
for Halo though, Ains? Or are you going to
No,
be
no.
okay with Halo continuing to just get
yes,
become
because
more and more
Halo
less
is a
relevant?
successful franchise. It's not the top shooter anymore. That's okay. People need to be okay with Halo not being the top. It's
Right.
fine.
And I would say like Warzone is different from Fortnite in its
Yes.
in its approach to its battle royale as well. And we've seen like Apex Legends and like even Apex Legends is like, we got a new mode that's not just BR. So like you're even seeing the BRs go, hey, let's do a different mode to keep the audience going. Ains is right. We have to come like to terms with Halo Infinite is not it is not bringing Halo back, right?
Yeah.
And I think what they probably need is a soft relaunch of Halo Infinite. And I don't know how to do that because I've been out of the game, so I don't know what's in the game that isn't, and I don't know how to make it like, freshen it up to get everybody back in.
I just don't know what like, and Joe, I'm not sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. You know, I
No.
get passionate about this
I get
topic.
it.
Sorry.
Like,
We also
I
get
don't know
passionate
what
about
people,
building walls.
I don't know what people think 343 or Xbox is going to do with Halo to bring it back. I don't even know what
Yeah.
what does bring it back mean?
You're right.
Yeah.
I think Joe said it. Like you need a new game. A new
No.
game
What does
style.
bring it back mean? What would
Oh.
be success
top
in
5?
bringing it back?
Yeah.
Top five of what?
Most
Seeing it
played.
on the
You think
Fallout
top
effect.
5 most played on all platforms? You think Halo's going to get there again?
Why not?
I think that's what people are
no
meaning
way
when
now.
they say bring it back. I don't think so either, Ains. But I
Oh,
think
then
that's what people mean.
they're unrealistic to the market. It's just not going to happen.
Because
Never
listen,
gonna happen
should
again.
Halo be in a better spot like on like Steam right now? Sure. But like again, I don't know how to.
Halo as a
Bring this.
brand should be in a better spot.
Yeah, I mean, we should
Well,
get-
that's
we
a
should
different
agree with you on
argument. Yeah, that's a different argument.
You know
Yeah.
what if they made a show and it was and the show was successful?
I wanted to talk
Honored-
about that too, but we'll
I really like
Honored-
season 2. I think they set themselves up for a
Sure.
great
Really?
Halo journey in season 3. I think they were
Yeah.
so far off that they were trying to come back.
Yeah,
But they should have
had to
just
fix it.
capped Quantum Ha in episode 1 of season 2. We would have already been good. Just
Does Master
Here he
Chief
goes
still
with his
have a
racist
girlfriend?
stuff again, Joe. This is where he goes, as always. You know.
No, does Master Chief still have a girlfriend in season 2?
Thankfully, no.
it's complicated. Like they,
Oh.
it's
So-
Yeah,
complicated.
no. Listen.
You know what?
Here's
Actually,
my
Joe.
hashtag. Make Master Chief a cuck again. Okay.
Oh.
Master Chief does not. He is celibate. He doesn't. He doesn't.
I'm putting you
care.
before the board.
Fine.
I'm putting you
Put me
before the
forward.
board.
Everyone
Put me
disliked that,
before the board.
Joe.
He doesn't.
Everyone
He's so
disliked
beyond the need of physical touch. He has Cortana. That's all he needs. I don't need to see his whole ass. Okay.
Hey,
I don't
Joe.
need him to see him in a fleece sweater and talking about his feelings. Okay.
They
It's
kind of got
cashmere,
away from
bud.
like the way season
Put him in the
2
armor
ends,
and he never takes off the goddamn
he
helmet.
can't.
No,
As
they
of
fixed
season
it,
2
Joe.
ending, he can't.
He better
They
not.
did fix it because season 1 people complained he didn't wear his helmet. So in season 2 he just takes the entire armor off. It's great.
Yeah. And I bet in season 3, like the visor comes up, so you still see his dumb face. Like it's so he's the Master Chief. You keep the armor on. All right. And if he's gonna have sex, you keep the armor on. right. That's it. It's
That's what we do.
Exactly.
We don't know.
Sorry, I get passionate.
Halo's
Should
fine.
Should I?
Halo's
Should I-
not fine. Halo needs help, but Halo Infinite as a shooter or
Great game.
the next Halo.
Top.
Whenever the next Halo comes out, let's place this bet right now. Whenever the next Halo comes out, and let's pretend for a second that it's perfect in the sense of it launches well, it's content complete, all the things that we talk about, right?
Sure.
I will put money right now. It doesn't last in the top 10 of live service games for more than a month.
No, we all agree with that.
No.
All right, so let me tell you this. Did you
What do you want?
see these?
That's okay.
tinfoil-
I'm with you on this. I'm really aggravated. What do you want then? If you
Yeah,
if
like what do
agree,
you? Yeah,
Who are
it
you
won't
asking?
be in the
'Cause I
top 10 the
agree
next
with
not
it.
going to happen.
No, but Ains asked earlier, what do people mean when they say bring it back? That's what I think they mean. I'm not.
They do. They think it
agreeing
should be
with
the
them.
top shooter in the marketplace, and it's never going
It's
to be
never
again.
going to be that. It's never going to be
Just
that.
not.
Did you all see? Did you all see Marcus Lato, the co-creator of Match, has been liking tweets about Unreal Engine, and people are like connecting the dots, whether that's true or not. If that's true, I think that's a terrible move. A terrible move.
Ains,
there it is.
Jose, world premiere, Ains.
Exclusive world premiere.
What's a terrible idea? Bringing Marcus back to 343?
I think it's a bad idea to say that the next Call of Duty is going to be great because Marcus Lato is back.
Call of Duty.
You mean
I'm
Halo.
sorry, I meant Halo. I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the part that irks me. Not because I think Marcus Lato is untalented, but because I think his track record in recent years doesn't lend the wins.
I'm in full agreement with you. Like Halo fans, they'll latch on to anything. They'll be like, "Oh my god, this person's coming back. It's going to be Halo 3 all over again." It's like, no, it's not.
Like if Joseph Staten, like he did save Halo Infinite, right?
He did.
Like he saved it.
Oh man, can you
but
imagine?
Like to bring Halo to deliver what it needs to deliver? Like Call of Duty delivers what it needs to deliver. It's got a campaign, it's got multiplayer competitive, it's got a battle royale
campaign,
and it's got.
Can I get
knock it off? God.
All right. Can I make
doing the same 4 hours every year does not a campaign qualify for.
I want to end this conversation. God damn! Every time we get you two in the room, Halo, what do you need to do? Here's the number one thing I think 343 needs to do. Okay, stop relying on contract help.
Yeah. Oh yes,
okay.
I think they know that. I think they know that.
For real, Todd, I like Todd's idea too. Let another team focus on Halo campaign. 343 focus on multiplayer. Just keep.
They did decouple. They decoupled.
Okay.
Right? Like they are
Ains
decoupled
is
now.
So tired.
No, Ains just knows stuff because he's
Does
in
he?
there.
Yes.
Yes, he knows stuff.
Okay. Yeah, but unlike any of these
Halo
other insiders,
sure,
he's not going to be like, well, actually, I heard the next Xbox is a law you put in your pocket. It's going to be 2 SKUs, and one's going to be the most powerful console you'll ever see. It's going to save your marriage. No. Like, share, subscribe. Cold Eastwood.
Well, I mean, I think at the heart of it goes back to what we've said before. Like 343, you said contractors, right? And you're right. Like, I think the other expectation is a bunch of us think that Halo is like this massive IP. It should be the top. So I've said this many times. Like, look at that thought process that we have about Halo, right? And what we think about it. It's a 600 developer, give or take, studio in 343 with a bunch of contractors, right? Call of Duty has 8 studios. Right? There is no comparison to the level of investment of development power behind Call of Duty versus Halo. So you have to make the decision of, do you want Halo to compete in that type of space? And if you do, then you got to throw the world at it.
Point.
To your point, you've got to break 343 and make a 434 that does campaign and a 343 that does multiplayer, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But you've got to invest more in it. They got the toxic leadership out of there. They've got good leadership in place now. They got to get away from the contractors, but that's a Microsoft problem, not an Xbox problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to decide.
Because making the Slipstream was the
I don't
problem.
know. I don't know.
Slipstream, while amazing, the Forge stuff is so cool to see. And I'm all about putting classic maps in your shooter. Anyone, I saw this like, oh, don't put classic maps in there. Shut up. Bring them back.
More maps, the better.
Yeah.
More maps, the better.
What are you doing?
Put them in ranked.
Put them everywhere. Put them everywhere.
Yeah.
But
the pros will, I don't care. Put them in there.
That's right. That's right. Storm the Capitol Ains once again. So
Jesus Christ.
The part that
you notice how he's trying to shift that to me, Joe. We know who was there. We know who was there.
Which one?
You saw Luke's Instagram.
Which one of us has a bald head? It's not important. Okay. So I guess the bigger I lost my damn point. God.
You're fired.
Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine. Like Slipstream, for all its power, maybe that new engine just was a bad bet. And if you're going to Unreal, something people know, you have an easier time getting developers in to work on it comfortably, or make a transition from one of the 408 studios working on Call of Duty to come over and help with
and the coalition.
Yeah. So maybe that's part of it too, right?
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, but I think this is just speculation on my part, but I think part of the compounding issue is you build a unique proprietary engine, right? But then you didn't keep the resources around that built it and knew it. So it goes back to the contracting problem. And anyone who's worked in development knows that you just can't do that. So yeah, sure, Unreal will help solve that. And there's more people not only in the Xbox publishing arm, but just in the market that know Unreal because it's the most popular engine, and that's maybe outside of Unity. But yeah, if you would have kept the development team together, you probably could have stayed on Slipspace, but that just wasn't the case. They are experimenting though already with moving Forge into Unreal. So we'll see. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Halo is up in the air, but I can tell you one thing: the people who are like, "Oh, we're going to get a new Halo next year," no, you're not.
It's going to take.
It's not going to happen for a while. So keep your.
Is Tatanka
thing
not
in
a
check.
thing anymore?
That's very
So-
disappointing.
Jason Schreier is the one that reported on that specifically, because what we heard was that there was more than 2 years of development and about 80 people working on Tatanka at Certain Affinity, and that it had been in development for a long time. However, what Jason reported, and I haven't heard this, I'm just saying what he said, is that was picked up to shift as well with the rest of the stuff to Unreal. It wasn't originally, like it was still going to launch as part of Infinite. And then when the decision was made and they had the big, debate over it internally, that was decided to move as well.
So it sounds to me like Xbox leadership feels like they've got time. They've got Clockwork Revolution, they've got Avowed, they've got Hellblade, they've got Indiana Jones,
Perfect
they've
Dark?
got no.
Yeah, what the hell's going on with
Sure they
Perfect
do.
Dark?
They've got enough
Gears.
to fill Gears.
There's so many games, guys.
Sounds like they don't need Halo right now.
Yes.
They can afford to like factory reset Halo.
Infinite is just going to be what it is now. This is Infinite. Yeah, I mean, you're still going to get the monthly updates and maps and all that stuff, but you're not. Yeah, the campaign expansion is not happening. Yeah, I know it sucks.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go, Luke. Are you happy you got your soundbite? Now can I exit out of the show?
Dan asked the question.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
did he
Taylor.
really?
It wasn't
Okay.
Luke.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
I
All right,
apologize.
I was trying to get us out of here.
Okay.
And then we had to get Ains ranting again.
I
Give
know,
Grandpa's meds.
I had to since Joe and Ains, you guys, I had to ask. All right.
No, he's about to
You
get
can follow
break out the
at Daddy
torch.
Diwali across all social media. You can follow the show at the Nerd Chat Podcast on all social media. You can follow at Insipid Ghost across all social media for all your Xbox expansion knows. Chipotle Bear, where can people find you?
You can find me at Chipotle Bear or Chipotle_Bear and lots of stuff. Thank you for all of you here today. I know I like to give Joe crap, but Joe is the first guy that came on our show way back.
Shout
when.
out to Joe.
Always welcome. And then Ains, of
I'll take
course.
it out of
and
the
Luke and
trash.
everybody. So
Okay.
it's been a pleasure today. Been lots of fun. Check us out, Nerd Chat, Thursday nights live on YouTube, or you can catch the podcast whenever it works for you. But shout out to Bacon, who couldn't be here. And of course, all our friends in this chat, Ellery, Todd, Nis, everybody, and all of our new friends from today. Thank you guys for having us today. We appreciate it.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yep. All right.
Joseph Moran, where do we find you on social?
Man, you can find me over at Mr. Babbitt when Elon allows me to talk or whenever he fixes those goddamn
it's
trucks.
dude. It's
Is he
crazy.
really shadow banned over there?
Yeah,
It's annoying as hell.
it's really annoing.
Can't
I got
see a
some
thing
really
he
good
says.
comebacks.
He's got good jokes. Yeah.
It's really good. It's a disaster. Again, maybe when he fixes those trucks, he could go fix his site. Probably never. You can follow the show at PS Trophy Room on Twitter as well. I tweet from there from time to time. And you can follow the Trophy Room each and every Wednesday night as we do it live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 5 p.m. Western Standard Time. I don't know. Over on YouTube at PS Trophy Room. And you can find the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast with me and my best friend Cal talk about the latest and greatest in all things PlayStation over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast service of choice. And rate us 5 stars, maybe. I don't know. You do you.
Ainsley Bowden, it was a pleasure to have you here as well. What you got for us, man?
I blacked
Oh,
out.
man.
You had
yeah.
a lot of coverage that I want you to plug.
Yeah, I'm not good at plugging. Joe is way better at it than me. Well, yeah, jokes aside. Yeah, just seasongaming.com. Yeah, we're working on a lot. We were going to do Cast Co-op this week. I'm just too tied up. We've got like 4 or 5 reviews in the works, like right now, coming this week. So I put my review of Witchfire Early Access up. We've got No Rest for the Wicked coming early this week. We'll be talking about it a lot on Big Cast tomorrow because me, Elu for SG, and Travis is reviewing it as well for IGN. And we've got a couple other games that we're working on. So just keep an eye out for lots of those reviews. Expect a lot of No Rest for the Wicked talk tomorrow. Just to give you an example, it came out Thursday. I worked full days on Thursday and Friday, and I did another review that I published yesterday, and I have 17 hours in No Rest for the Wicked.
Whoa.
I have not slept. All I've done is play that game.
It's crazy.
It's that good.
Well, I will say I loved the stream last night. I jumped in and just kind of lurked. It was very cool.
Yeah, I'd ask you how the family's doing, but I think we know the question by that response.
You haven't seen him in days. We appreciate you, though, Ains. I will thank all of you for being here in Logan's absence. It was a pleasure to talk shop with you guys. I really enjoyed having you. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Logan. Logan's working really hard lately. I'm really proud of him. I want to thank everybody in chat, from Todd Oxford and Split End and Ellery Woods Parker III, to all the people we saw at the very beginning. I saw so many people stop in and say hello. It was a pleasure to see you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting XEP as a channel member by clicking like or being one of the patrons, or just checking the show out. We appreciate you. Have a fantastic rest of your week, everyone. Take care.
See you all.